So, so welcome to this week's podcast. This at Eastcast. I'm Hesco. That's James, and our guest here, John Boyette, or also known as Bobabooey, affectionately by a bunch of us. And
I haven't heard that in over 20 some years now.
so, yeah, man. John and I served in the 82nd for a long time, and he stayed on. And I mean, you could take it away. Give us a little bit of your background on what it is that you were doing and what you're doing now.
Yeah, so I think you were one of the guys that came to us in '98 when we got back from the sign up.
Right.
So we got back from the deployment to Egypt, June, July time frame, and you were one of a couple guys that was in hold, or you were right after that group of people. And then you stayed with us until at least 2004, if not longer, at least 2000. I mean, I left the unit 2004. So you and I served from 98 to 2004. And then towards the tail end of that time frame, I went to a different company within the battalion. And a little bit before then, you moved to another platoon. But yeah, man, we've been together for a long time. Yeah. A lot of people don't understand that when you get to the 82nd, that becomes a thing where you can go from deployment to deployment to deployment. You just homestead for 6-7 years, and you're just there forever.
Yeah, I think the retainability has a lot to do with that. Once you got that special that airborne identifier, you kind of stuck there. Like we've seen.
Yeah, because if maybe from different perspectives. I mean, you and I were lower ranking folks. I mean, I made it E6, you were E4 at the time, I think, during that time frame. But from our perspective, we would hear guys going on orders to Korea. You would hear guys going on orders to different posts, but that was mostly from them, just not going on deployments. Because when you and I were deploying, the Army at the time had a 9-month or a 1-year hold, right? So once you would come back, you had to stay at your duty station for at least 12 months. And due to our frequency of going to Egypt, going to Kosovo, then going to Iraq, we just never left post. You know what I mean? We just stayed there like the entire time.
Yeah, we had guys go. I think during our time, we had a guy go to Korea and come all the way back and right back to our unit.
While we were still there, and he missed one of our push-outs.
Like he missed a run, and then when we got back, he was there, and I'm like, I thought you were in Korea. I was like, yeah, that was a year ago, bro. Like, no shit. I was like, damn. Or I mean, hell.
But yeah, so going back to what your original question was, is that I'm originally from Tallahassee, Florida. So I lived in Florida until I was 18, 19 years old. And I was in a deadbeat location doing deadbeat things. And I was like, man, I got to get the hell out of here. So the only way I could at that time get out was join the military. Now, my oldest brother was in the Army from 86 to 91. My other brother was in the Marine Corps from early 90s, I want to say 94-ish to 2000, I think. And then I knew that was a way of getting out of the current situations. So I joined the Army, but it was amazing, right? So I'm one of those stories of the recruiter pulling every string that's like on the man to get me in, and I got in. And so I got in November of 96 and just did that until August of 2005.
Yeah, that was a crazy run there for a minute. Like we went through the transition of the old military into a version of it that was kind of ours, and then like pre 9/11, and then post 9/11 into the newer era of the military. Yes, and that's pretty much when I started to get out. Like I guess you could call it like BDUs, BDUs, 911 ACUs. You know, so it's like we kind of straddled that little thing, and we saw three different armies in a short period, relatively short period of time, which is
Yeah. So like from my perspective, you know, I knew of Grenada. I knew of Panama. Of course, we all, I was one of those kids. This is this is mid 90s. I'm talking. I read like all the books of the Vietnam guys, read all the books of the worst teams, the Marine Corps sniper guys. We all read those books, right? Or at least I did. So I read all those books. So I had that concept, and I knew what those operations were based on the cover of Newsweek or the base of the cover of Time magazine, and maybe those articles, right? But I mean, let's be honest. I'm 18 and 19 years old. I couldn't even read a paragraph, so I followed it the best I could. So when I got into basic training, like one of my drill sergeants had a 10th Mountain Division combat badge, and he had his CIB. My other drill sergeant had a CIB with the 101st. So I was like, wow. So this is in '96. I'm in basic training. I got two combat vets that are non-ranger qualified, and they are combat vets as drill sergeants. As the story goes, the guy with the 101st was in the Gulf War, and he did the longest air assault ever, 300 some miles that they did from one place to another. And then they woke up and they jumped out, they jumped back in, and the war was over, or whatever that story goes, right?
any minute.
The other dude that had to, right? Like that takes a lot of skill. I'm out, I'm in, I'm out. But anyways, so then the other guy was a 10th Mountain guy, and he was in Mogadishu, right? So I didn't even know what that was. You didn't hear of Black Hawk Down in '96. That was only 3 years ago, or '97. It was only 4 years ago. You didn't hear about that kind of thing. You may have saw it on the news. You may have heard of a flare up here. It is no different than Waco. When I saw Waco, they brought the TV and they brought it inside the TV room, and we watched it, and they moved it, and then we went back to schoolwork. Same thing with like Mogadishu. They brought it in, they did it on the TV, and then they took it away, and we went back to schoolwork. It wasn't even a thing. You know what I mean? We didn't have no clue. And so I had a drill sergeant who was just out of Mogadishu by like 3 years, and he's a 10th Mountain guy. And then, okay, but I remember seeing the paintings, right? So I was in 254, so I remember seeing like the infantry expert badge painted on the wall. Then one of them had like this around it. I'm like, oh, that must be super expert. You know what I mean? I don't know. But both of these guys have it, right? I'm like, what is this thing? And so but then later on you learn, oh, no doubt, this cat was more than just a dope on a rope. This guy did way more than that. This guy was, when this guy was in the Gulf War, they actually did some really cool stuff. Like, wow. And then later on, you realize this guy was, in Mogadishu, like he was on the QRF that rescued that whole scenario. And you're like, man, that was some legit stuff. But you don't know that as a new guy going into basic,
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just what the fuck do you know? Coming in, it's just like I think the first time I was like super super aware of that was in '93. I was 13 years old, and my dad had Time magazine, and a Time magazine subscription, and
Right.
the front page was one of the like I don't know if it was Shugart and Gordon, or one of the pilots being drugged on the streets of Mogadishu.
Right.
And if you look back on the history of Time magazine covers, for the
Absolutely.
one, I think it was November or October of 1993. If you look up the cover of that, you'll see a U.S. military guy in silkies. So he's wearing his silky shorts, damn near naked, burned and mutilated, being drugged on the streets by these militants, and it was on the front page. And my dad,
Totally.
And I remember my dad grabbing that, and he's like, "Motherfucker!" And it was like, he tried to, like, I don't know, like he put it away, like he didn't think I was interested in it. So it's just I'm 13, so it's like another.
Or it could have been a perspective of how nasty of an image he didn't want you to see. You just don't know what his thoughts were.
Well, I found it after he got done reading it and whatever, and I freaking tore through it. And I remember for the first time actually being really fucking pissed off. Like legitimately pissed off. Not knowing exactly the ins and outs of the politics and everything, and what happened and what truly transpired on that day, but just being pissed off that these soldiers were treated that way. And that kind of stayed in the back of my head, and it would never go away. It was like an itch that just
So
was there.
I'm going to tell you something. So when we get into the war sport years, okay, when we talk about war sport years, just remind me of Halloween, and I'll tell you something that'll blow your freaking mind. Okay, so we'll just wait until we get there. Okay, but this is an interesting tie-in because my general manager at War Sport Industries was the NCOIC of that operation, and so it was interesting to be with that guy for years. But we'll eventually get there.
Oh shit, man! I'll tell you, it was an event that stuck in my head for throughout my childhood and beyond. Um, so eventually, when I decided to join, it just kind of, I was like, of course I'm gonna be, this is what I want to do. It took a little bit of convincing because I had some really good, there was some really good people that kind of guided me towards the Navy at first, and I had a really good ASVAB score, and they were offering me some good stuff, and there's some good advice. It's just that
Absolutely.
the Navy just ended up not being it's just not being in the cards, man. There was a
I mean, I'll be dead honest. I was looking at the same thing, and I ran into a veteran that was in the fleet, right? And he told me that oh well, that MOS or saying that I was qualified for was basically putting grease in like lubrication points. Like, oh, that sounds interesting. He's like, don't do that.
yeah,
That's the only thing I was qualified for because I couldn't even pass the ASVAB. He's like, I don't think I could get like the lowest skilled job on the face of the planet. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, okay, great.
These freaking Nimrods are gonna put me in a sub for a long time. That's where.
Yeah. So there's like the water line of like the ocean, right? If I was gonna be in the Navy, I was gonna be somewhere down here. It would have sucked. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but for me, it was just that man, that the recruiters, the recruiter. So my Navy recruiter smoked, all right, and like I don't know what the fuck he smoked cigarettes, but he went outside. He went outside, and there was two Army recruiters outside, and one of them was being kind of like doing left seat, right seat. I guess for what I understood, because one of them was he was a ranger. He had a black beret, and he's in his A, so he's got jump boots on. He's got all of his shit. Like he looks like a third country fucking president. So a third world president. He's got fucking medals upon medals. The guy that's walking with him in E7 was a paratrooper, and I believe he was from artillery or somewhere or whatever. But he also had quite quite a freaking fruit salad. And when I walked outside with this recruiter, because I'm like, mama duckling, I'm following this fucking dude around.
Hold on a second. So you telling me this was in Puerto Rico, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So these
So you're telling me that these guys were selected to go to this island with all these awards, or maybe they were cherry picked to go out there for this exact reason, because it's probably a pretty cush place compared to Boise, Idaho.
Well, they're Puerto Rican as well, so that it's probably that had a lot to do with it.
Totally awful.
So it's. I'll tell you, I don't know how it went down, but how these guys ended up there, and I ended up talking to. I'm standing outside, and they started making fun of this guy, the Navy guy.
Right.
I mean, they start fucking ragging on him. This dude didn't. He didn't have any snappy comebacks. He didn't have any.
Yeah, nothing.
Yeah, shit. And so then they wear his ass out, and then they start working on me, and I'm like, oh fuck no, bro. It's like I can't do this. I can't do this. This is no fuck that, bro. I can't do. So of course, it wasn't instant, but we went inside, and after a little bit, I was like, you know what, I can't fucking do this. Just yeah, and I'll fucking do stuff. I was like, I'm out. I'm done. And I got into some other shit with my family, and that became a little thing. But long story short, I ended up back in the Army recruiter, and I ended up going in the Army full on. But it was. It was. I was like, I gotta go with those shit talkers, man. I was like, my instinct was right, fucking first go around. Should have gone to the Army to begin with. I was like, because I mean, if I'd have gone in the Navy, I'd have wasted a bunch of years in the Navy and then ended up in the Army or the Marine Corps, anyways. It's just, So it is.
It is like a friend of mine said, and besides like special organizations, however you want to categorize that, if you think of like the Navy, think of the Air Force, they are 100% transportation options for the combat forces. You got the Marine Corps and got the Army that are combat organizations. The Air Force has combat, the Navy has combat, but the main mission of the Air Force and the Navy is to transport people to the war, to where it is. So, so when you think of it in that context, they need a lot of very good skilled jobs, guys that can do maintenance, guys that can repair things, guys that can fix things, and the way they do their train-ups and the way they do it's really funny. So later on in my life, talk about like gear acquisition and stuff. The Air Force and the Navy man equipment. They man aircraft. They man ships, right? They put people on the equipment. The Marine Corps and the Army equip the person. They get equipment for the individual. So that's a much different mindset and a much different way of doing war fighting,
Yeah, it's just but then I went through I ended up in 119 for a while. Yeah, I did my basic there in AIT and whatnot, and then I went after airborne school and went to you guys. And like you said, you guys were I got there. So it was unfortunate for me because I got there the day after 2 days after you guys had just landed. So you guys, yeah. So you guys were still wearing DCUs. So
let's put this in perspective from my perspective. Okay. So I was in E3 at the time. Okay. So I literally went from E1 to E3. My experience from that moment was I went to JRTC. Okay. Did 6 months in Egypt, which consisted of a lot of, oh my goodness, we're about to get into something that never happened. We didn't even chamber a freaking round in 6 months. No one has in 20 years. But from my perspective, I didn't know that. So get done, come back, and now I'm at E3. Okay, so now think about this. With my little ribbon rack, and I had 4 ribbons.
Yeah.
I came out of basic training with 1 ribbon.
Yeah.
18 months later, I got 4. I literally had 1, 2, 3, and 1 on top. So I'm the man.
Yeah.
It's about that.
Yeah. So I think.
So that's where you come in after that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so after all that, I land. I'm eating nothing, and
right.
Like
you got one. You got one little ribbon that's like joining. It's like joining the Army. Welcome. And here the E3s, they got 4. These guys are,
So I'll run into
which means nothing, but it looks good.
No, but that's it. But that's the thing. There's a big difference because me knowing fucking jack and fuck all nothing. These guys have already been, even though they're E3s or some of them are E2s, they've already been they've already been on a road march with the unit. They've already been to the range. They've already been, so they've seen how the cookie crumbles on a lot of things, and they've
Yeah,
seen
so that's a very good point. So you and I talked about this back
yeah,
in when we met in Dallas. So that
yeah,
that's a very good point because I've always thought about this, right? And I could not imagine a veteran going from the time frame of 2005 to 2012. Let's just look at that time frame. I could not imagine what those guys actually went through. And the reason why I say that is because I went to OIF 1 in 2003, right?
mhm,
So I had as an E3, I got to do this MFO thing. And we went to Egypt and we literally watched dirt bake in sunlight. There were some other things that happened, but the most exciting thing that ever happened is we got to see dirt almost turn to glass in the desert. That's about it. We ran some trash runs, maybe put some trash in the back of a pickup truck, ran down the road, and the road disappeared. Okay, that's a really cool story. But other than that, that was it. Then we did Kosovo, and Kosovo was its own thing, but
yeah,
Kosovo was ratcheted up way higher than the Egypt trip.
yeah,
And so by the time I was in E5, E6, I already had this deployment where I was used to putting guns on a civilian aircraft, right? Like going on being at Pope Air Force Base, walking up the ramp, putting guns on a civilian aircraft. I've already done that 2 other times. I remember going on a deployment and having the DSN lines calling home to my
yeah,
wife, being able to do all these things and helping guys like you to be able to do
yeah.
them. Because I've done these 2 other deployments prior to that. And so I couldn't imagine being a guy from '05, '12, and from '05 to 2012 going from basic training straight into combat, where they never had like a ramp up, like this basic step, this next basic
Mhm.
step, and now you're in it. And they never actually did that. They went from like bending straight into it, bro. That's like
So,
crazy.
so check out. So James, tell that story. So yeah,
Turn the camera the other way. That's way worse image.
it's just my point. It's just a story.
You didn't catch it.
So,
Guess you're not used to being called ugly.
joined the Army, and I think my first paid day was February 2nd, 2004,
uh,
Fort Knox, Kentucky. And yeah, went did basic training Fort Knox, 2 weeks leave afterwards. Didn't really take leave. Flew to Korea, stationed with the 2nd Infantry Division, 2nd Brigade Combat Team, assigned to Alpha Company 272 Armor. And I got assigned there like right after they gotten back from leave because they had gotten orders that they were all gonna join up with the 506th Parachute
yeah.
Infantry Regiment and go to Iraq on the first, last, and only deployment from Korea.
Mhm.
So we did the train up, and 2 months after I got out of basic training, I was in Kuwait about to go cross the border into Iraq in '04. That was in August '04. And then November of that year was Operation Phantom Fury.
Yeah.
And there was another operation. I forget. I think it was Operation Barrel. I don't remember the
Yeah.
name of
It
it.
was. It
It was
was.
a body.
It,
Big old
oh
fighting
fuck,
robot.
man! I think. I think. No, I think you're right. I think it was. You're gonna have to Google it. I
Yeah.
want to say it was Operation Pharaoh or some shit
I
like
thought it was Barrel. It's like
Barrel,
BYRAL or something like that.
But
It's
I
spelled
don't.
weird.
That is wild because cause like when you think of when you guys had Battle Troll on, whatever episode that he was on, he was kind of like with Vasquez here, where he came in roughly the same time frame, but he did Kosovo with us in '01, which was a year and a half, 2 years of running around Fort Bragg doing Army things. Then you go do this Kosovo thing, and then he 2 years, a year and a half later, we did the Iraq thing, right? And then he and I had orders to go to Benning. I went to airborne school as an instructor. He went to third ID. Like, bro, you just got back from a 14-month deployment in OIF 1, and now you're instantly rolling out to OIF 2/3.
Yeah.
And that dude stayed on that path for years. I don't even know the number of years, not months, the number of years of combat time he has. It's got to be 3+. He's got to be over 40 months of infantry combat time. I could not imagine doing that.
Yeah, with the VA.
Oh no, yeah, no. VA, that's a whole different freaking can of worms.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, it's I think those guys, a lot of them just kept jumping PCS and too. So there was all these, especially for the surge. So there was all these units that needed manpower, and they're just like opening the doors for 1-for-1s or people MOS experience or whatever NCOs that were looking to plus up these units. When all this stuff was happening, I saw it later on with the Marine Corps as a contractor, and they were reflagging units that ain't been around in ages or lost their colors back in the day or whatever.
Right.
So it became kind of like what we did in Kosovo when we started flushing toilets to go to Kosovo, and so
Right.
it's a unit full of literal turds. So you got a whole battalion of infantry, a whole infantry battalion full of dudes that nobody wants, and castaways. And yeah, that sounds great if you're making a movie.
It's just this huge island of just misfit toys.
If you're making a movie, that sounds fantastic. But how
to a story.
Yeah, how it works in real life, it's just that it fucking doesn't.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
you got these fucking retarded fucking people, these fucking absolute fucking morons, trying to make fucking sense of warfare in the mountains of Afghanistan, and getting fucking killed. Like, and I was like, well, yeah. You know, yeah, because you guys are fucking dumb as dog shit, and you go try to try to teach them doctrine, and they refuse to pay it. Oh, rah, rah. You know, so what? You know, I've worked with them. I worked with the Marine Corps quite a bit during my lifetime, and I've run into units that have been real pragmatic and real like they've been gun ho, all of them, but they've been like some of them have been real calculating and real methodical. And others have been just flat out fucking, just get out of my way if you're.
Oh yeah, it's wild.
Punched.
It's wild. I mean, I can remember when we did. You went with us to Germany in '99, right?
Right.
Yeah, remember that, right? One of the best. Well, that's just all. We'll get to that one, but maybe. So anyways, or maybe we're there now. But so I remember one of the funniest conversations I had when I was in the NCO club in Germany. I was a corporal at the time, just finished PLDC. I went from specialist to a corporal waiting on orders. And I'm up in the NCO club, and after they flipped the sign, so you remember how like an American chapel is. You would have like Catholic, and there's like a cross, and they flip it. Then it's like the Jewish star, right? So depending if it's Friday or if it's Sunday, and depending on what they do, they just kind of flip stuff around, right? Yeah. Well, this place was the exact same way. So we're in the NCO bar with the Fossenjäger, and it was like Fossenjäger, Third Reich. We're like, holy shit. We're sitting there in the NCO club. And the guys were like, and so all of their privates were actual conscripts, and all of their NCOs were enlisted, right?
Right.
So we're sitting there, and we are talking to them, and their NCOs go, you know, what's so interesting about the Army, about the Americans, and about the Marines is that when you guys have like nothing to do and you guys are bored, you guys fight each other. And then when you're done with that, you fight us. And when you're done fighting us, you fight someone else. I always thought that was such an interesting conversation, you know, because when I actually think of the Marine Corps, that's what my memory actually goes to. When we did like a Purple Dragon, or we jumped into Camp Lejeune, or we did these things, it was like if there is downtime, the only thing Marines do is just freaking fight, either each other or us.
I tell you, when we had 2.5 or whoever the fuck they were, doing gunnery with their
Right.
LAVs, and we were delighted to have them, and it was because we Marines and paratroopers are like we're piece of air.
Absolutely.
It's no big deal, uh, but them cats, man, they had to like. I remember the MPs told the Marines to put back the concertina wire that they had. They had surrounded their LAVs in sea wire to prevent their fucking Marines from leaving. That you know what I mean?
Totally.
Like they're trying to corral these dudes in the vicinity of the LAVs. So they made like a little motor pool with their freaking sea wire, and the MPs were like,
That's a
"Yeah,
legit thing.
like you don't have to do that here, man." And they're like, "No, you don't understand. These guys are gonna fucking start wondering, and it's gonna be it's gonna be a thing." Like
All right.
they're
People better than you.
like the gunnery sergeant was like, "I don't think you understand that if we don't put sea wire out here to get it's not to protect them from you, it's the other way around. These guys are gonna start wondering and exploring around, and it's gonna be mayhem because somebody's gonna get
Did you do the
like,
so that that reminds me. So did you do the jump when we went into Eglin Air Force Base?
well,
Do you
yeah,
remember that, or was that before you got there?
no, I did.
Or were you a new guy when we did
Oh,
that?
I was a brand new guy because that's the one where Cormier, first time Cormier broke his ankle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, first time Cormier
Yes.
freaking
So
smashed his ankle on his way down. He hit that freaking runway sign.
yes.
So
Okay.
yeah,
So like a lot of these historical things, we're talking 1998, right? Quite a few years ago. So a lot of these things, I don't remember who was with who when we did that, but that was right after we did our Sinai trip, and then we did lanes. We did lanes on Bragg, and I think we did. Then that was the next big thing,
yeah,
and I don't know if you were
show, if
with
I'm
me or
mistaken.
not, huh?
It was an air show, if I'm not mistaken.
No, that's when we jumped into Herbert Field at night.
Oh, okay.
Remember that with the big Miles engagement? We ran into that SEAL. We ran into the SEAL platoon. Maybe that was before you got there. I don't remember.
I don't think
That's what the reason why I remember it is because it was the only time I ever jumped with a quickie saw on the outside of my 1950. And I had like my weapons case. I had a quickie saw on the outside. Jumped in. We had to do all that jazz.
Yeah, no, I believe I was there for the Eglin one, but the Herbert Field, I don't think that's even.
I think you're thinking of the Arkansas air show jump we did within that year.
I remember first round Cormier getting injured. He hit a runway sign, and I landed in between two runways in the grass. And
Hold on. Do you
so
think that was the Omaha jump you did going into the 82nd reunion?
oh yeah, because it was
Is that the one you're thinking of when he broke his ankle?
yeah.
That was the air show you may be thinking about.
See, it was an air show. I remember it was
Right, which would have been the reunion in Omaha. 'Cause I remember you and I sitting at the table, because I remember it was you and me and a couple other people sitting at the table with World War II veterans at Omaha. And I think you jumped and I had to drive there with somebody else to Omaha.
Yeah, it was a daytime jump, and
Yeah, so that was Omaha then. Yeah.
Hollywood combat equipment, no combat equipment.
Or Oklahoma. It was Omaha, Nebraska, I think was that jump that you're thinking of.
Yeah, that's probably what I'm thinking of. But yeah, that's because then we did that other big one in Sicily for the congressional delegation, and
Yes, that was the I actually have pictures of that.
That was the Fox
Yep.
jump.
So I think you did that, and I was at Pope doing the static displays where I had to do like the Stinger jump pack because I was tall enough to do it.
That's the one.
And all that kind of jazz.
Pitcher almost drowned. Battle Tour almost drowned on that one.
Yep.
Yeah, you put like I don't know, like 400 to 500 shoots in the trees, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a part of those trees is a swamp. So it was one of the first jumps that we had. We were using the adverse weather terrain system for an actual parachute jump, which had been tested plenty of times in the past. but it was we had low ceiling, so the clouds are way lower. We have a
Mhm.
freaking mass attack. But what was it? Was it brigade mass attack or something? It was massive. It was. I think it was battalion mass attack. I believe.
I remember
It was
that
massive.
one of them. You're talking about the one that was really foggy, right? Because I only have a few of those that I can remember.
Oh, it was.
There was one that was really foggy that we did it on Sicily, I think,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken, and it was a mass attack. It was C-130, C-141s,
Yep.
and I remember being on a 41 right before they deadlined them, and when they opened the doors, the plane filled with fog. And the only thing you could see
So we
was
had-
the red. Was the
Yeah. So
Huh?
I had Sergeant Nagy. You remember Nagy? Nagy was a jump master for my
yeah?
truck.
This is 99 now. Yep.
So Nagy was
That's about right.
my truck, and I'll never forget it because the Air Force opened the door, like Army,
The fog came rolling in.
and the fog
Yeah.
went in, and he's looking around with his hands like,
Yep.
like, what the fuck am I supposed to do now?
You can't see nothing, right?
Can't see anything. So
Right.
he goes to get his 20-minute mark, and he just kind of holds the door and goes like, "Hey, man,
You can't see, right?
can't see." So the Air Force takes the door again, and then they give him the cues of 20, you're at 20 minutes. And
Right.
then we start doing the jump sequence, 20 minutes, 10 minutes, standing
Right.
about inboard. And but this is a battalion. It was a battalion mass attack, full combat equipment with a mission. So it's jump, assemble at Steiner raids, and with objectives. So Steiner raids, for
That's
those
right.
those of you who don't know, are these visual aids that split the drop zone in for company assembly.
It's a big. It's a really big piece of canvas with like chem lights on it,
chem lights on it. So usually the first sergeant,
and they make like a C or an A or a B or something.
Yeah, it's a banner.
Gotcha.
It's a battle banner.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And they raise it up, and it's a bunch of connecting tubes, kind of like Bangalore's, just connecting tubes, and they raise up the Steiner aid. And as soon as you put your nods on, you'll be able to see the Steiner aids and who pertains to
Right.
what, in the middle of the night. So you assemble your Steiner aid, and then you take off for your objectives. But the problem was that they dropped more than 80% of the assault force in the trees. So you got all these freaking paratroopers stuck on trees that need to get to these assault points, and you need a minimum manpower to launch to be able to even launch the assault. And we're trying to expand airhead and in this runway and secure it for follow-on forces, while a fucking platoon of fucking congressmen with night vision goggles are watching this whole thing.
Watching this. Yeah.
Watching this fucking disaster happen.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget it, because I by that time I had jumped Sicily, I don't know, a couple times. I knew, I was very familiar with it from the sky.
Yeah.
And I gained canopy control, and I look up and I look around and say, "Where the fuck am I?"
You can't even see it. Yeah.
I can't see it. And I'm like, it's Sicily sand. Dude, it's like 5 miles by 3 of fucking sand, white sand. And you can see it from Google Earth, no problem. Like, no problemo. It's the biggest drop zone we have in Fort Bragg. It's enormous. And to change it up a bit, they'll jump it backwards. Like, instead of fucking north to south, jump it south to north, call it Gala.
So to talk about how big it is, right? To make it obvious. So I live outside of Fort Bragg still, right? So when we watch the local news, right, and they show like the weather, they show the weather radar, like today there's a chance of rain, and you see it swing around. I can look at that map, and I can see Sicily. That's how big of a clearing it is. It's gigantic.
It's enormous.
Yeah.
So
From a local like weather channel that's 70 miles away, you can still see the drop zone.
yeah,
There's spring.
It's enormous. So I'm looking around. I'm hanging on my.
And they totally missed it.
Dude, they totally missed it. Like, I missed it completely. And I'm sitting here like, fucking, where the fuck am I? And I look down, I can't see it. And then I hear other paratroopers in the sky yell, "Fucking trees!"
Yeah.
And it starts echoing down the chalk. Trees, trees, trees. And I focus in real well, and I'm like, it's nothing but fucking broccoli underneath my feet, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna fucking suck. 'Cause you don't know what's gonna go up your ass or what. So you don't know what the fuck's gonna happen. So you keep your equipment with you. You don't lower your rucksack. You don't lower your gun. You don't lower any of that bullshit. You keep it on for extra padding. At that point, none of that equipment matters. It's just trying to save a stick from going into your body.
Right.
So I'm like, here we go. I cover my face and crash. The softest landing I ever had. Like my tippy toes touched the ground, and I kind of hung there. And I'm like, oh shit, we got it made. Fucking undid my freaking parachute, retention straps. Fucking off I go. And I'm in the fight. But the other guys behind me landed in the swamp, and if they didn't get hung up on the trees, they landed in chest deep water.
Oh, damn.
And that's where Battle Troll landed. And he had it like a bunch of people had to come and get him out of there because he landed with his rig on in fucking chest deep water on his back. And he was a javelin gunner at the time. He was a javelin gunner at the time, so he had the clue. He had a lot of weight on him. He had the clue and all kinds of other shit and fucking blank ammo and extra ammo for the 240s. So he had all this. He had a lot of shit on him, and he's fucking being weighed down by all his gear. They had to rescue him out of there. He didn't make it to the assault, but it was
As
bonkers,
I think about it from like division, I left division with 80 jumps, and I never hit a tree. I only pulled my reserve 2 times, and I never hit a reserve, and I never hit a tree 1 time. Never. Now I've hit multiple runway lights, and that sucks. But
yeah.
but I've never had a tree land.
Yeah, I've landed on trees twice, and nothing major though. Like it's not like I had to climb out the outside of my reserve to get down or nothing. It was like right there.
But it's funny because like when I think of these stories, right? I think of like people are trying to imagine what this looks like. Like they don't have any clue of just how crazy and dumb this whole process is, and it's like they have no clue. And so like as you were telling me this, the only thing I can think of is it is like going out to your car in January and your windshield is mist. You have mist on your windshield that your windshield wipers won't quite remove. You know what I mean? Like you got streaks and whatever. You're like, I don't know if it's bug juice, I don't know what it is. You got that. You got fog, and you're running with your high beams on, driving down the street. That's literally what you're talking about. That's about the amount of visibility when those doors open. And Aggie's like, I can't see. It's literally like in fog with your high beams on, and you're going to exit an aircraft into this pea suit because why not?
So that was fucking bonkers because we're like I remember falling and I'm in the clouds and I'm like holy shit, and it seemed like it took forever to clear clouds. And it was almost at the time that my parachute inflated when I was like, okay, yeah, I'm out of the clouds. And then it was so fucking confusing because everything is so damn dark. And the drop zone I'm so familiar with from jumping it so many times I can't find it. Like
in between Manchester and Long, so you know where it is. You know?
Yeah, but that's about it. But that ain't nowhere near as bad as my first jump. You probably remember that one.
Which one was it?
I was a fucking cherry jumper in '98, and we were jumping Sicily, but I believe we were coming the approach over the top of Brookville, and the green light went early, and I was number 1 jumper, and it ended up turning red after I fucking handed static line. I was already out the door. So I was like a fucking red light ranger fucking on my very first jump in division.
Were you at the back of the chalk or were you at the front?
I was a number 1 jumper. So the green light fucking came on and I fucking
too early. So the carp wasn't set right.
So we were.
Did you land on the chicken houses out there, or where did you?
Yeah, I landed in Brookville in the block houses.
Oh.
So I landed in the middle. So I left the aircraft, and I'm an E1, so I don't know shit.
Yeah, you're gonna go.
I don't know anything. So I fucking come out, and the light turned red, and I saw it out of the corner of my eye, but I only got 5 other jumps, and they were in airborne
Yeah.
school. I have no
A couple dudes left door, a couple
Yeah.
dudes right door, and then they stopped.
Yeah, and then they stopped. You get a chalk of about 10
Yeah.
guys, in airborne school because they got to manage those guys.
Yeah,
from
yeah.
the block. So I leave, and I'm accustomed to not having a lot of people around me anyways because of airborne school. They want
Yeah, yeah.
a lot of separation. And I look around, and I'm like, and there's fucking nobody out here. And I'm like, these fucking pranksters, bro. I legit thought it was a prank. I said, this is a prank.
Because the reason why you thought that is I probably already hung you outside the barracks windows inside your sleeping bag, or I've thrown you down the stairs inside a locker, inside your locker or something. I've probably done one of those, if not both, the day prior.
Yeah. So there was a lot of that going on at that time. So, and I had the cement frog. So, you remember that fucking frog?
Do what now?
The cement frog?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I had the
Somebody
cement
stole it. I don't remember who it was.
Robago. Silverio. He took it.
Really?
Yes, he has it to this day.
It's funny, it's cool, but that's kind of fucked up because that thing's been
made me
around
angry.
for at least 20 years.
It made me angry. It still does. It still pisses me off. But
Okay, but anyway,
Silverio has it.
so now we're talking about a 40-year-old concrete frog, but I got you.
Yeah. So that concrete frog has a fucking jump log.
Totally.
And every fucking private that gets it has to fucking repaint it and
Yep.
fucking and they can't
And re-hot glue the 82nd Airborne patch on
the 82nd. He has an 82nd
his asshole.
badge on his ass.
Yeah.
And you
put it in your rucksack and jump it.
In your rucksack, you take it with you everywhere. You can't fucking lose it. And
That's
you
right.
can't fuck her up until the next new guy comes in.
That's correct.
Yeah. That could be months. But people are throughout that time, people are trying to steal that shit or catch you without it.
Totally.
So it's a measure of responsibility. So I had the fucking cement frog. I'm going through the hazing process, and then I leave the aircraft, and there's nobody there. I'm like, all right. So I'm going through my instructions. I'm supposed to pack my chute, and fucking take it to the turning point, and and I'm also a foreigner, so I've been talked to very specific, about how to do things by people that think I'm a fucking retard because I'm not from the United States. So they're like, all right, well, you talk to him real slow, and now I'm in this fucking block house, this bunch of streets and block houses that are for fucking mount training and close quarters battle and shit like that. And I'm like, what the fuck? So I ended up
which is also known as the impact zone for artillery fire.
Yeah, it's an impact zone. Nice. So yeah, fantastic. So now I'll just see the airplane just go.
So let me ask you a question, because I remember listening to you and Battle Troll going through y'all's podcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you guys were talking about stuff, and I thought I was in a third dimension. I don't remember half the shit you guys were talking about. Okay, just for whatever reason, maybe been hit in the head one too many times. I don't know. But I was like, what the fuck are they talking about? Like some of the things, right? So what I remember is this, okay? I remember, and I'm not even exaggerating when I say this, I remember clocking privates in the head with bottles of Jack Daniels that were empty. I remember hanging privates outside of windows and sleeping bags because they were in cocoons. I remember stuffing privates in locker rooms and throwing them down the stairs. I remember using camo nets and catching them in or out to the shower and pulling their towel and pushing them down the stairs and listening to them crash. I remember spotlighting hookers on Bragg Boulevard in 15-pack vans that I enjoyed the most. I remember, let me see, I remember, you know, being on CQ and playing spades and doing who had the biggest bra that they brought down from upstairs or the biggest panties to get out of the 5-mile run on Monday. I remember these things, but I don't remember a lot of other things. So I don't remember how much of that I tortured you through, or because I was a above average size guy, so I had to deal with some of it, but not as much as everybody else had to put up with. And then, my most favorite one was putting guys in their sleeping bag and making them inch crawl to the others from second platoon to third across the floor so we could wax the floor and clean them up. And watching them come out soaking wet, they're in their sleeping bags doing like low crawling for 150 feet. I remember doing that a lot to people.
Yeah. So for me, it was the CS powder.
We're talking about the MRE with the Tabasco sauce in it, throw it in your room.
No. It was the CS powder from the goddamn fucking CS room.
Like the little tablets?
Tablets that you fucking break off the fucking powder.
Okay.
On the fucking door. And
okay, I probably did that one too, yeah.
So that
was that when is that when we burned a hole inside your carpet? Was that when that happened? When you had like that rug in your room, or is that when y'all dropped something? Yeah, that was Smith dropped a cigarette in there.
Oh, you guys destroyed all my shit, yeah.
Yeah.
You guys destroyed all of my shit. All my shit is fucking busted. Had to shut the fuck up. It's what it was. But
right.
But I didn't get as much of it because of the trouble I got into for painting the Panther pink on the 505. So I didn't rat anybody out on that, and that was the end of my hazing, and all I had to do was keep up with the fucking cement frog because there was no. I didn't dime anybody out. Yeah, I shut the fuck up. So I ended up spending because I spent the night in the stockade at fucking goddamn fucking Provost Marshals.
Who came to get you out?
Motherfucking Lieutenant fuck.
Was it the big stocky dude?
So
lieutenant, or was it your platoon sergeant came get you?
No, it was a lieutenant, and I forget who the fuck.
Was it Underwood?
Underwood, yes, Lieutenant Underwood. Yeah.
The former enlisted guy?
Yeah, Lieutenant Underwood came and got me. And they thought I was drunk, so they thought it was like a drunk thing. So they let me sit there overnight. Okay. And the next day they came to get me, thinking that I'd spent time in the drunk tank, and then they told them exactly what was going on, and they were like, "Oh shit!" And it was like I was looking at some serious shit. So fucking vandalism and the fucking smoke grenade I popped, that didn't happen. So yeah, it was detonation of live ordnance on post or some other fucking shit. I was looking. Yeah, I was looking at some fucking charges, and eventually they figured out I only been there like a handful of days, so they're just like, all right. They're like, well, who gave you the smoke grenades? It's like, oh, I've had them. I said, the fuck you have? I was like, I had no idea. I didn't have.
But there's a level of respect for everybody out.
So that
every part of that chain of command, from MPs to your brigade commander to your brigade sergeant commander, that recognizes that we have a private who's keeping his trap shut.
Yeah.
Punish him, but we ain't got a hammer.
So I spent almost a full 45 days cleaning that goddamn Panther and
I remember that.
And repainting it, putting it back.
Did you have to paint a building for that?
I had. Well, the building was after he had left the unit.
Oh, okay.
So we had to paint the barracks, but that was I fucked that building up, bro. That building looked like ass. Well, that was fucking Don's fault. First Sergeant Don was a fucking moron, but
who?
First Sergeant Don. Yeah, he's a fucking turbo.
So my most favorite memory of that guy was, we haven't even gotten into all this, but so I was legitimately injured before we went to Kosovo. I remember in 2000, we were on lane 26. I can tell you exactly when it happened. We're on lane 26. I'm running point. We're doing a live fire night. It's already done. Blank day.
I was on your team.
I know. So we were doing all of that jazz. We get to night. We get to night fire. I'm under PBS 14s. I remember doing it, and I stepped in a rotten stump or a burnt out stump. I don't know what it was, but I remember it to this day. And this is in 90. This is in 2000. So 25 to 24 years ago. I stepped in this rotten stump, and my foot sunk probably 4 feet. Right, and a shard of that wood jammed my spine so bad that I remember it to this day, right? And so I kind of like combat rolled that bitch off. And I was like, mother God. We finished the lanes, and then 6 weeks later, we did deployment to Kosovo. And I don't know if you remember this, but after Easter, after our big event in Easter, of 2001, they gave me like a family size container of like naproxen. And I was popping in pills like crazy. And my back injury from that moment got worse, right? I was taking these meds and whatever, did that deployment. Then Dotson or Dots, whatever that dude's name was, he took over after we got back. And I wasn't keeping up with the runs. I was able to road march. I couldn't run let's be honest, I was never a good runner, but I could hang in. I couldn't perform. I could hang. I could make it, but not well. It killed me, but I could make it. Well, then after that injury, I wasn't making it. And so it was just horrible. So they moved me to S&T, which was a godsend. It was the best thing that ever happened. We can get into that. But when I went there for 9 months, I had my 90-day card. And anybody inside knows that 90-day card means I went to jump master school. I passed the pre-qualification, and I was good to go to jump master school for the next 90 days. Here's your 90-day card. And I could show that, hey, I'm good to go. Can I please get a class, August, September, from August, September to October. Well, when November come around, I had to go get another 90-day card, right? Hey, can I please go in November, December, January? That's kind of what you did. So I had 4 of these things. I had a year's worth of 90-day cards. And this first sergeant told me no because I had a speech impediment. He told me, no, you couldn't pass pre-jump. There's no way you can pass pre-jump. And I was like, I got these 90-day cards for like a freaking year, bro. What do you mean? So they moved me to S&T, and I went to First Sergeant Boone, and I showed him my 4 90-day cards, and one of them was current. He's like, you are going on Monday. This was Friday. I'm like, woo! And I passed. It's a 2-week long school. I passed jump master school. My first JMPI, my first time I'm a safety, first everything was with Charlie Company, first 325. If First Sergeant Dotson comes out and I am the safety doing JMPI 2 weeks ago, a month ago, 3 months ago, he told me no, and here I am, and I'm like, fuck you. I mean, I was so excited.
Yeah, he's
the type of guy this guy was. He would put that preconceived notions on people. Oh, you can't pass this, so you aren't going.
No, he's a huge turd. He
Totally.
And I mean, whatever. I mean, I don't know where he ended up or how his life turned out, but I guess he was like a
E9. I tracked him. He made sergeant major and went to First Armory somewhere in Texas and then disappeared. I don't know what happened to him after that, but
yeah, he went to Bliss, and then I know he was ROTC. He ended up working ROTC for a while, and I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, there's that's like a line of shit that then breaks off. So screw it. I really don't care. Yeah, man.
Yeah, fucking.
But so hey man, so let's get back on track on this one. So when we went to Kosovo, right?
Mhm.
I remember that you got moved from a different platoon due to a rat that was amongst the organization, and he caused some issues. We don't have to go into what those issues were, but people were reorganized, right? So we had reorganization. When I don't, so Easter of 2001 was like a turning point, right? That was the moment that Kosovo went from a peacekeeping operation to like legit operations, right? To at that time the most legit that it ever was. Now, as we know, 2003 and beyond, 2002 and beyond, it was more. It was more legit than this. But at the time, that was the game. That was the only game in town because Bosnia wasn't a thing anymore. So Kosovo was the only game in town, and we had a front row seat, right?
Right.
Were you with me? I don't remember who was with me. I remember a few people. Were you with me when we were in that little vehicle that had like the front compartment, the back compartment, and we drove up the mountain, huh?
Froze to death in the Sus V. Yeah.
And we drove up the mountain and we got there in the Bell Day. Were you with me when we were doing that, or were you already transferred?
No. I was there when we drove that fucking thing up there, and it fucking we set up the blocking positions with the javelins.
Okay. So my most favorite
tank assault.
My favorite memory being up there was the first time I was ever shot at. Right. So I'm an E5, right? I'm an E5. I got a fire team. You're part of it. Other guys are part of it. Like I said, I'm sorry. My memory doesn't. I don't remember every single individual that was with me at that time because it's been 25 years ago or whatever, or 23 years ago. But anyways, I remember we're pulling security in the middle of town. They have like this cul-de-sac, I guess, that you could call it. We're pulling security. And I remember I was taking the knee because Sergeant Capps was with the major who was with the Battalion XO, and they were in town. And I remember sitting at that tree, and I remember saying, "Man, I need to move because there's a hornet's nest in this tree." And I remember looking up at the tree, and I was like, "I don't see a hornet's nest. I hear them, but I don't see them." And then I saw a few leaves fall off that tree, and I was like, "What kind of hornets cause leaves to fall off the trees?" And I remember sitting there clean as shit, looking up, going, "What in the freak is going on with these freaking hornets that can remove leaves?" It's like a Forrest Gump thing. And I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, I'm like, "Them stomachs, you're shooting at me." Literally, that was literally from the moment to the end, 45 seconds. I mean, it wasn't like a second half. No. It was like a legitimate conversation going on in my head, going, and just think, man, those cats were impacting that tree, so they were probably 24 inches above my head, which means they had their dope off by like 2 clicks on the optic at that distance.
Right. If they even had an optic, but
maybe 2 clicks. And I'm sitting there looking up, like, what are they doing? Like, what's this? Complete dumbass, like a complete, like Green Ivan, just sitting there going, "What's going on? What are they doing?" And these cats were just cranking off rounds. I'm sitting there like, "What are they doing?"
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same shit. Fucking later I think it was later that night or whatever. We linked up with the Polish Special Forces dudes, Task Force Bison, and we ended up pushing towards the border, and I think the sun was still up. We're all fucking doing our comm checks and checking and prepping and doing all our shit about to get busy, and I'm standing out in the middle of this road, fucking smoking a cigarette. I got my fucking 240 on the ground, all this shit with me, and I see everybody take cover, but I don't know why. Like everybody, I'm like, everybody just kind of like jumps into the ditch and like fucking starts laying low, and I'm like, fuck you idiots doing. And I was like, yeah, it's fucking. I think it was fucking Hilta Bottle or fucking one of these fucking guys. They go like, fucking kick that, goddamn it, fucking they're shooting at us. I don't hear a fucking thing. What are you talking about? I don't. I was like, dude, listen, man. I was like, oh shit, they are shooting. They're shooting at somebody. It ain't me, but you know. But
It's like incoming from somewhere.
it's incoming from somewhere, but everybody heard it but me. I'm over here fucking La La Land, just fucking sitting there with my cigarette, like fucking looking.
And what is so funny is there's like this
Place is beautiful.
whole stars. There's this whole stars in stripes article where you got Dewey Adams on the cover. You got
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
There's a picture of you and the interpreter. Huh?
That's the quote. They quoted me. I was like, I've been here. I ain't seen shit or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so what is so funny, what's so freaking funny is there's a picture of you, and I have it with a 240 Bravo, and right beside you is the interpreter with like his binos up. And it's like you guys are looking at like a paint can or something. There's like nothing out there.
Yeah.
It's looking open to Neverland. But it's like the picture's great, right? And so and then and then there's like a Chinook. It's like that. And you guys are looking, and you're like, oh, on the 240, and you guys are looking at like some paint can out in the like 60 feet away or whatever. And so but what's the best part about that whole thing was the next day when we're up in the Bell Day, which from the place I was being shot at, that I just told a story about, is like you got like a mountain ridge, you got like another mountain ridge. Well, it's this one, it's not this one. So we had to walk down, come out of the minefield, and come over to this one. So, so we were over there, and I remember setting up the guns, had 240s out there, had everything set up, and I remember going back to our platoon sergeant, and I asked him, I was like, "Hey, man, I don't know where these Macedonians are. I have no idea where their army is. Have no clue where these cats are." He's like, "Well, I'll go show you." I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "I'll go show you." I'm like, okay. So he grabs a freaking Playboy, okay, walks out there, right past the guns, walks right up to the checkpoint, and he takes his magazine. He's like this. He's like, "Hey," and all these people like jump up and they start waving, like on the rocks. And he's like, and he's sitting there and he's freaking talking and he's facing them and he's yelling at me and he's like, "You need to be plotting these fucking points." He's like waving his platform, and all these dudes like jump up like, "Hey, you know, hey, what's up? That looks like a great magazine." I'm like, okay, this dude's like a grid like 4447 4459 4448 4442. I'm like flying all these grids, and that's when him and Maggie walked over the border and stayed over there for like 2 hours, and they came back with all that crap, and they came back with like a furry hat and a jacket and a button for one American Playboy, and I was like, that is the smartest thing I have ever seen in my life. He literally just said hi. These dudes jumped out of their positions like, "Hello, American, hello," and we're like, "Bro, we got you."
Yeah, fucking
For a fucking skin mag.
342 meters. Perfect. All right.
Exactly.
That's how we did the range cars for that place. It's
The
fucking
100% off of that one. We're like, "Bro, you're a genius."
it's like it's fucking cheat codes, bro. So the thing is that we were told that they were gonna invade, and I don't think anybody told them. Because we traded chocolates and cigarettes and they were just there. Like
Just dudes.
Do you remember? So do you remember
just fucking dudes just manning a checkpoint.
our? Do you remember when?
Came from Macedonia into Kosovo. That's
Yeah. So I will show you the pictures that you can share on this podcast of the whole thing. It was wild, but I don't remember the interpreter's name. But then we had an interpreter, right? I don't know. I think it's Mandy or something like that. But don't quote me on that. It was M something. Anyways, he's the guy that got busted in the chow hall for smuggling oranges and bananas when he was going home. And when they caught him stealing oranges and bananas, they're asking him, like, "Why are you stealing freaking oranges and bananas from the KBR chow. And he said, well, my children have never had fruit.
Yeah.
And like, okay, enjoy. Would you like a bag of apples? You know, like that's the argument, right? Like, how do you tell this guy wrong? So this same dude, we were at the Bell Day place, which was an old schoolhouse. He was our interpreter, and we had like that snow in. We had that huge snow in and over Easter, and it was like 4 or 5 feet deep. And it was ridiculous. They couldn't bring any supplies in. We ran out of MREs. It was bad. And so all this was going on. And I showed him how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, which you wouldn't think is a thing, but that's an American culture. That's a culture item that Americans have. No different than like, you know, Copenhagen is an American thing. Only Americans dip, unless you're from the island of Palau. We can get into that, but which is a different thing, but still. So this guy, right, is 47 years old, got a family of whatever, and I'm showing him, you take a piece of bread, you take a knife, and you take a spoon, and you make this peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You put it together, dude. That guy almost like got diabetes after that. That's all he ate nothing but that, like the next 3 months until we left. It was like the best thing that guy. When we would later on would like be like walking town, he literally had like a school lunch sack that he made, and he was carrying those sandwiches with him everywhere he freaking went. And it was such a culture thing. But to me, I was like, how wild is it to not know how to put a couple pieces of bread, some peanut butter and jelly together? He's never experienced it. But then with us, it was like the best thing he ever had. It was so wild.
I mean, that place was definitely a throwback in time. There was a lot of things that what was funny about the people of Kosovo, both Albanians and Serbians, were like super cool at they were so willing to show you their what they did and how they got down and how shit fucking happened, and they're like they're like, oh, you ain't from here, you ain't seen shit this old, check this out. And they would come up with fresh milk at the checkpoint sometimes, like we'll be fucking manning a checkpoint.
Remember the bakery that was there beside the mosque?
Yeah, so that's
when I Rodney King that one dude. Remember that shit?
Yeah.
I had a mag light and I beat that dude to freaking stupid.
Yeah, it's
that's a different story though.
So if you were standing with the mosque behind you and the bakery is over there on the right hand side a lot, but the people that worked the bakery lived on these houses to the left. They had a small little girl. She was like maybe 8 or 9, and she would grab the baked goods and bring them to you like at the checkpoint, and they would have fucking fresh milk, like bro,
like they literally milked it like an hour,
like off the cow.
It was still warm.
Like it was fresh milk with their pastries, bro.
Yeah. That's when I learned what like Nutella is. I did not know what Nutella was until that point. Because we would be pulling a 12-hour shift at that one mosque that was, I don't remember where it was in Patina, but it was somewhere around there. I mean, I could not, I've gone to Google Maps many years. I couldn't tell you where that mosque is, but if you put me in town, I could walk you to it, right? It's like one of those things.
Yeah.
So I remember being there, and at 03:30, the dude would start baking. At 5:45, it was ready to rock and roll. And you had to get in there, you pay whatever it was, 50 cents or $1, and you get a whole like a whole basket, like a whole basket of like little balls of baked dough, and inside them there was Nutella, and we would just eat that for breakfast. It was one of the biggest treats I ever had.
Well, it was fantastic, dude. It was fantastic. It's just they
The only other thing in Kosovo that was better than that, I will have to tell you, was when we were on patrol in Bijak and we killed those cows. We finished blowing those things up, and because they ambushed us and we smoked the shit out of them, and we were down the trail, and that's a story we won't talk about because they were terrorist cows. But anyways, so we got rid of them, and we ran into this lady. And the one thing about the Kosovo women of that generation that was really interesting was, you remember the original like Snow White? You remember the 1950 edition of Snow White,
I mean,
right?
I've never seen it through and through, but I know what you're talking about.
But you remember the Wicked Witch? She had like
Yes.
that wart on her nose,
Yes,
and she
yes.
had that black cloak she would wear. That was every woman after 31 in Kosovo. They would go 29, 30, 31, bang. That's what they all look like.
Oh yeah, they did hit a brick wall over there. It's
But anyways, so she went to this cow field and literally went in the cow field, went into this little like bunk that was in the ground and pulled out these hot potatoes. As we were doing patrol, she gave us these warm red eye potatoes.
yeah.
You remember that? And we were walking, and it was like a jolt of freaking energy, man. It was like it was snowing outside. It was freaking horrible. We're like in mile 3 of this border patrol or whatever. And this one lady gave us these potatoes straight out of some ground in the middle of some field, and it was just it was incredible.
That was the patrol that when I saw the overlay over the fucking map, I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
Oh, it was ridiculous. There's minefield left. There's minefield right. It was like this, and a little bit of this, and a little bit of that.
Lines on top of contour lines on top of contour lines, and the fucking line of our patrol is like over these contour lines. I was like, how the fuck am I supposed to get up there, bro? I got a fucking 240 body armor. I was like, how the fuck is this gonna work? And
and also we have to remember your legs are like a pig. They're like 6 inches long.
Yeah, and I'm a fucking short guy. So it's just like that shit that so we I think for some of those crazy patrols we left the gun behind and I ended up drawing an M4. But some of those like I'm geared up with a 240. I think it was setting up a blocking position to doing something. So I get my 240 ready, everything ready, and I look at the overlay. I was like, how the fuck am I supposed to get this gun up there?
It's ridiculous.
I was like, that shit don't make no fucking sense, bro. And they're like, oh man, fucking adapted over combat. I said, motherfucker, unless I just develop some superpowers, this shit ain't fucking happening, man. Like it was like straight up fucking mountain climbing stuff. Some of those patrols were, I remember some of them, we were like this, leaning on the mountain. Cause the footpath is about as wide as it's a legit fucking goat path. And if you try to stand up, you are not gonna fucking make it. You're gonna fall off.
That's correct. That's 100% correct.
Lean on the fucking lean onto the mountain and just kind of fucking walk it like that.
So so there is a misconception now in 2024 when we talk to other folks, right? There are trails that you can take an ATV down.
Yeah.
Right. There's trails that people think of when they go to a national forest, and you jump on a 4-wheel, or back in the day maybe a 3-wheel, or maybe now a Polaris Razor, something like that. You drive down the trail, and people consider that to be a hiking trail. Those vehicles would tumble down the hill and freaking break in half on these things you're talking about. It was not really a trail. It was a clearing on the side of a mountain that some billy goat thought was a good idea to pass 30 years ago. Yeah. And we're walking down this thing, and there were trip hazards, ankle breakers, and it was an absolute wild ride.
And we had to take them because
that's the only game there was.
The easier routes were mined. So
that's correct.
So we had.
Were you with Captain Evans when y'all went down the hill and came up the hill and y'all passed the mine sign? Or was that a different group?
Well, we got stuck inside of a minefield.
Yeah. I mean, that was common. But I don't know if you remember this. So I was over in the bell deck, and we called in a QRF. Hey, we need help, right? For whatever reason. I don't remember why now. But we called it in. And they're like, yes, the QRF is 6 hours out. Like, oh, that's helpful. And so
no, I wasn't on that one. No, I remember that. I wasn't on that one.
So they went down the hill. Okay. They went down. I call it a hill. They went down the mountain valley and went up the mountain valley. Okay. And when they came to the crest of the mountain valley, as they were coming up, were all of the minefield signs. And they stopped and they were like, oh my God, we're about to walk into a minefield. We need to refigure this. Took a couple minutes, did a couple communication checks, and they realized they were on the wrong side of the leading edge of the minefield side. They've been in the minefield for the past 3 hours. It just wasn't marked at the bottom of the valley. It was marked at the top of the valley. And they're like, okay. And so they moved through it after.
Yeah, no, I wasn't part of that one. I think I don't know what happened. I was either watching.
It could have been a totally different it could have been a totally different platoon. It was wild.
If I'm not mistaken, that there was elements of battalion scouts that were stuck out there in that one.
I think Davison was on that one. I think Rabago was on that one. Maybe Agenbrod. A couple of those cats on that one. I remember them showing me that.
Yeah, I for sure wasn't on that one, but yeah, man. I mean, so we did the man dance over there in fucking cool in Kosovo. Thought we were fucking hot shit when we got back, and
totally. And we almost got CIVs, almost, and then September 11th happened.
Yeah,
that shit got scrapped.
Yeah, so I mean, I was confused how we at least didn't get a combat patch out of it.
So I don't know if you know this.
I think we raided the CIB, but I didn't think because I mean, me personally, I didn't. Now, granted, by the statute of the CIB, yes, but me personally, I don't think we raided it because I didn't fucking shoot at anybody over there. No, that was
right. Well, so what you have to what you have to balance, and this is just the bureaucracy of, we have to put it in perspective. That was the only game in town. The only game.
Exactly.
One ridge line to our left, SEAL Team 6 killed 2 of their own operators. One ridge line to our left on the same hit that we were doing. I mean, it was the only game in town up until 2 months later when we got back. We got back in June, September, or 3 months later when September 11th happened. So we have to kind of put in perspective. It was nowhere near what Mogadishu guys did. Not even a blink of the eye compared to what they did. It wasn't even a blink of an eye compared to what the other Storm guys did, be honest with you. But it was the only game in town. And so they were pushing for it because everybody wanted something. But then September 11th happened. And I will never forget that, man. I remember on that Monday evening being on Green Ramp for a battalion mass attack. Yeah. We were on Green Ramp. We got loaded up. And at that point in time, in 2001, you have to remember that I've been with that platoon, that singular platoon of 35, 40 guys since 97. So I've been there 97, 98, 99, 2000, 2001. I've been with this platoon for 5 years at this point. And it was a battalion assault on what I call the new mount site. Now it's the old mount site. It wasn't range 58. It was the old mount site. This is the new one. I don't even know what the number is now, but it was the new cinder block facility with the red roof and the tan walls. And it was just built between Sergeant Major Ivan Hoff's range and OP-12. So anyways, so I was tasked from our first sergeant that I personally was going to be the point man for the battalion to get off Sicily and hit this mount site. Had nothing to do with land navigation, had nothing to do with our capabilities. It had everything to do that I've been with this platoon for 5 fucking years, and I've walked this route 1,000,005 times. There was no way I was going to screw up on which fire break to turn. I knew Fort Bragg like the back of my hand, right? So I was tasked with that. That's why we were the lead echelon for an battalion invasion of this mount site, just because I was still there. And I was the most oldest dude that knew the land nav of the mount site. So I remember going in there. We hit it. We hit that mount site. We had our blank fire adapters, shooting blanks, doing our thing. Everything was successful. 6 a.m. We hit index. The mermites come out. We're all sitting on the ditches along Long Street.
Yeah,
We're all eating cow. We're sitting. This is when Long Street goes from pavement to dirt, and we're on that. We're inside the ditch. And I remember us sitting there waiting on the Singars upfill. You did that around 8:30. So now it's 8:30 to the Singars upfill, and it didn't work. Something was wrong. We had to shake. We had to shake the cord or something. We had to get the Singars upfill going. Got that done. And I remember sitting there and watching the C5 leave Pope. The only C5 on Pope Air Force Base is the JSOC bird. Right. And when the JSOC bird left, everybody was like, what in the hell just went downrange? We don't know. We're out in the woods. Yeah. I remember seeing the JSOC bird leave. And I remember them coming to us and say, hey, does anybody have any family in New York City, Long Island, anything like that? We had three or four soldiers that did. They wrote down their information, and that was kind of the end of it. And then they told us, hey, transportation has been canceled. We're now walking back to the barracks. So this is September 11th, 10 a.m. now. And so we had about a 9-10 mile hike back. I wasn't on point on that one, because who cares? You're doing fire break 12, going down to Yakin Extension, you're making a right, going down to 6, you're making a left, and bang, you're in. I mean, I can still tell you now. So it wasn't a big plan.
Yeah.
So we went and we did that, got back around 3 p.m. and they took, it's just funny now, you have to remember, it's 2001. Nobody had cell phones. That wasn't a thing. Mm-hmm. They took all of our pagers, whoever had a pager away. They took all of our landline phones, unhooked them, and put them in the platoon sergeant's office. And there were a few people that had internet, and they took modems. They unhooked their modems from the phone lines and put them in the platoon sergeant's office. And then we all sat down, and they turned on the news, and we saw what's happened over the last 6 hours. Mm-hmm. And bro, we were on lock. That was a Tuesday. Okay. We got there Tuesday around 3 or 4 p.m. If you remember, we were on lockdown until Sunday night. I'm sorry, until Saturday night. Right. Now, your marriage went different than mine. We can get into that. But I got married that Sunday, September 16th. Because we knew we were hitting the road.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so then Monday there was a ton of us up at division headquarters doing the paperwork for our new brides all across the division. We knew what was coming up.
Yeah, we started selling all our shit too. Like fucking, if you had any extra bullshit.
But if you want to go into your marriage day, you can go ahead and go into it and what my great contribution was of that day.
Oh, bro,
that your wife has never forgotten, has never forgiven me of since even today.
Well, this guy this guy was a witness in my when I got married. I got married at the courthouse.
Right. I'm your team leader.
He's my team leader, so I take him up there, and my wife,
we're at the courthouse.
You're at the courthouse. My wife doesn't, Jessica, she don't quite she doesn't know him very well, and she's very shy and whatever. And I guess we needed a second person, like a second witness, and we didn't have one, so it was just Boyette, John and me and my wife. And who was it that we fucking went and so
you had to wake me up because I was asleep.
Yeah. I
literally fell asleep sitting in the. I was in the waiting room for more than 6 minutes. I fell asleep. Wait, and you guys had to wake me up, and your wife's like, "What the hell?" I'm like, "Sorry." Sign your marriage certificate. Freaking pass the hell out.
He fucking we needed another witness. So I'm like, well, fuck it, Ray Lewis it is. And it's like, who the fuck is Ray Lewis? And it's like, I plays for Baltimore. I was like, fuck it. So fucking Ray Lewis is the witness, the second witness on my wedding certificate, on my marriage certificate. It's just, yeah, fucking made that shit up. He was like, fucking sign that shit. Let's fucking go. And I'm like, oh, you got a point. I was like, dude, I think that was the only time off I had that day was to get that done. And then we went back to work. Like I took her home and we went back
Was
to
that in the middle of when you were getting the Panther issue? Was that why I had to go with you?
Yeah. I was
Is
in,
that why
I was already in
it
trouble.
was in Article 15 that
Yeah.
there's something you
Yeah, I
were
was already in trouble.
like-
That was like my second or third freaking Article 15 already. And I was in trouble for some shit. So yeah,
or
you,
something, right?
yeah, I was in trouble for some oh no. So yeah, remember I was fucking roommates with that idiot Gleaves? That black guy? Fucking Gleaves?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
we had a room inspection on a Monday and I fucking shined and buffed my half of the room and not his. Because he wasn't there. He was in South Carolina.
And I probably jammed your ass up.
Getting fucking shot. No, you didn't jam me up. The fucking goddamn first sergeant did it for you. So
Oh,
yeah. So
yeah.
So yeah,
That's freaking wild.
yeah.
But so people need to understand that's literally how wild it was. I mean, you have an individual that's making a life-altering choice to get married, right? And you can, I know what your life story is, but as an example, you could have guys that get married, they could get divorced 6 months later, and they got to pay alimony. You think about it, you got a life-altering event that could cause a dude pain for 25 years, right? And it's literally hurry up, let's go. I'm freaking passed out. You wake me up. I'm like signing some people's names, don't sign my name. Let's go. Like not even giving two shits about it. Like not even caring. Like it's like, why did you wake me up from taking a nap? And that's how cold it was. I mean, it's just reality of it.
Yeah.
And it's not good. I'm not saying that's the way it should be, but that's the way it was.
But I mean, there's no other way to take it either. So it's just kind of like I didn't take it personal. I wasn't offended in the least bit. It's just like,
Right. Because all the time.
I'm already part of the machine anyway, so I know better. It's just like, yeah, it's just is what it is. There's no fucking honeymoon. You just fucking sign the paperwork, get your ass back to work, and you got fucking restriction to the barracks, and you got fucking extra duty because you fucking stepped on your dick fucking last week. So let's go.
It's wild, man. It's so it's funny because I've heard on other podcasts from guys that were in whatever special operations unit you want to use. So one of the comments is like everything suffers but the job, right? Like you will allow everything else to go sideways but the gig, and then that was very similar,
Yeah, that was So then we got all that done, and we ended up gearing up for Iraq in 2003, and that by then we were already in two different outfits. So I mean, we were
there was a huge split there between your and my path. And basically what happened is that you in Kosovo were moved to another platoon due to some sideways actions due to someone else. And then I, after we got back, was moved to S&T because, to be quite honest with you, I was not physically able to be an E5 in an infantry squad. Let's just be honest about it. Back was killing me. I was freaking not able to keep up in runs. So they moved me and a bunch of legitimate good guys to service and transportation platoon, which is usually an 88 mic role where you get the truck drivers. And S&T platoon was historically where all of your non-conforming, all NCOs and non-conforming privates went to. All of your dirt bags went to this group. And I was kind of in that group, right? Which is just what it is. So I got there, but man, it was the best thing that ever could have happened for the battalion. It was the best thing that ever could have happened for me, not knowing what the future was going to hold. Like we didn't know what the future was coming, but the decision that was made where they were like, hey, we're going to take this guy who's not physically performing as good as he should, which was me, that I wasn't making runs. I mean, even today, right? Like, here it is. I'm 47 years old. I jog around the neighborhood thinking I'm doing something, and my jog times are slower than my ruck march times were. It's just reality. I mean, I I still deal with that, right? So we're talking 2002 time frame, but what I brought to that organization was to that platoon was 6 years, well, 97, 98, 99, 2000, 2001. Yeah, 6 years of weapon squad time. I was with the 240. I was doing heavy, what we consider to be weapon squad, which was the machine gun teams, right? Doing tripod operations. So what does the vehicles have when you get deployed? You got the Mark 19s, you got the 50s, you got the freaking 240 Bravos on vehicles, and basically the only vehicles that an infantry battalion has are part of S&T, right? So I brought, and the platoon sergeant who came over, who used to be a weapons squad leader also, we brought a lot of that knowledge to this platoon. So we spent 9 months doing shoot, shakeout, recovery, running chow to people, doing all these kind of, mobile S&T support role things, which was fun. It was an eye opener, And I got through jump master school and was able to do a lot of that kind of stuff because I was now with HHC instead of with Charlie. But when we deployed, when we went to Iraq, it was very interesting. And I'm going to tell you some stories that you probably have never heard. This is fun. So February of 03, Valentine's Day, I went with Advon to deploy, which was almost 2 weeks ahead of the battalion. I was with the first 60 guys that went. And I was the ammo NCO. I was the battalion ammo NCO. I was the non-commissioned officer in charge of drawing ammunition, right? And this was the first time I ever went into like a division PAM or like an Army, manual besides uniform or besides an infantry book, where I had to learn like what is the standard issue of ammunition for an infantry battalion? Like how many rounds of 5.56 does an infantry battalion draw? How many rounds of 7.62 do you draw? How many AT? I didn't know, but I knew that there was somewhere in the regulations. So I had to figure all that out, get all that squared up. On Valentine's Day, I'll never forget it, man. I was on No Name Field for the millionth time. I'm on No Name Field. I'm standing there. Cattle trucks pull up. I got all my shit. I've been married for a year now. Well, no. Yeah, I've been married for a year and a couple months. And it's like Valentine's Day. It's noon. I hug my wife. I'm like, okay. No. I watch her walk away. I watched her walk away. She parked at the Airborne PX. So I saw her walk across, hit the Airborne PX, and deployment number 4. Here we go. Picked up her bags, throw them on the cattle trucks, drive down the green ramp, get on Terror Air or whatever plane we had, fly to Germany again, land in Germany. I knew where the McDonald's was. It served Spear. Go do that, because I've been on these deployments before. Similar path. Fly to Kuwait, land in Kuwait, get out. Never been here before, so we land at Camp Wolf, which is the Kuwaiti International Airport. We're there. We had to put up tents. We put up tents. We get that done. And then they're like, hey, man, you got to go to Camp Arif John. I didn't even know where it was. You got to go to Camp Arif John and draw ammo. I've been to Fort Bragg ASP. That's one thing. But now I'm in a different country, going to a different base, drawing ammo. I don't know where the fuck this place is. I have no freaking clue where any of this shit is. So I pull it up. I literally have the plugger, like the plugger with like a flip up antenna, like the old school plugger. They give me an 8-digit grid where the gate is. I'm like, okay. So we're driving down the freaking highway in a convoy. I'm looking at the plugger. and it's literally running through the numbers. This isn't like a breadcrumb trail. This isn't Google where it gives you a map and you follow the blue line. No, it's literally a screen with numbers, and it's we're moving at 60 miles an hour. And I see the numbers go down. I see the numbers go up. Oh, we got to turn around. Come back, figure this out. Oh, it's that dirt road. So we turn down that dirt, you know what I mean? And we get there. And remember, man, it was one of the few times I ran into a CW5. I walked in and I ran into the CW5. The dude's been around since like the Revolutionary War. And I'm talking to him like, hey, I'm the ammo NCO for this here battalion. They told me to draw ammo. I have no idea what I have to get. I know I have an idea, but I don't know the amount. He's like, oh, it's sitting on that. It's sitting on that pallet. It's like right over there. I'm like, oh. So we load up the trucks. They already had it stacked. Pull it. I signed for 4 million rounds of 5.56. All the stupid numbers. I'm like, so many javelin rounds. When it's all said and done, it's like there is like more money on these 4 trucks I've ever seen in my life. Roll back. A couple days later, you guys land and load out your ammo, right? We get that done. And then we get prepped for the big jump into Baghdad International Airport. I don't know if you remember the big circus tent and all that whole big shit show. But what I will never forget is doing the door bundles, and for the Mark 19s, for the 81 mil mortars and the 50 cal guns, doing all the door bundles. I had to deal with all that ammunition, all that ordnance, and we did not have a solution for javelins. There was no solution to door bundle the javelins or the flutes. They were not certified to be dropped yet, and so that's a whole different story. But I remember that, and I remember getting all that squared away as the ammo NCO. Then I was the assistant jump master. This is no freaking lie. I still have the paperwork. I was the assistant jump master on the 47th bird for that drop of 60. I want you to think through that. All C-17s, 100 and some dudes, and I was the 47th bird.
This is a brigade mass attack.
Yeah.
It was literally panned as the biggest airborne operation ever conducted in the history of mankind. No, not even Market Garden. Well,
Market Garden was the biggest, and this was going to be right underneath it.
Market Garden had like
since
airborne from British Airborne, American Airborne.
Yeah. This was just underneath. It would have been just underneath Market Garden. Yeah. That's how big of operation.
As far as the American commitment, as far as one, and now it sounds wild because in Market Garden you got the British, you got the Polish, you got all these guys, right? They were talking about one pass, because if you remember, if you study those on Market Garden, the 82nd, the 100, and the 101st dropped on one continuous flight. They just made one pass, everybody got out. They dropped an entire division. This was going to be the same effect on the C-17s, where we were all going to drop on Baghdad International. And it was going to be second brigade of the 82nd, 1st and 3rd Ranger Battalion, and 2nd Squadron Delta was going to make one pass. Everybody's going to jump. Period. In a 45-second TOT. That's it. And then heavy drop was 15 seconds after us. Yeah. Literally, you were coming down when heavy drop was coming over top of you.
Yeah, like you had to fucking get your shit
and get the fuck out of the way.
Fuck out of the fucking the airspace. Because
there were conversations on the Jump Master committee. Okay, so I don't know if you guys knew this because you guys may not have ever gotten to actually this point, but on the Jump Master committee, safety were Air Force shoots. You would roll up the D-bags, you would stay on the plane, you'd land back at Pope Air Force Base. You didn't jump there were safeties saying that they were exiting the aircraft. Like, fuck you, I'm not missing this thing. And that was amongst us, not amongst the actual planning. And dude's like, dude, I'm exiting this bird. There's no way in hell I'm missing this jump. It was going to be a freaking show.
Yeah, it was definitely. I'll never forget the. I think I was on bird number 3 or 4 because I had to set up support by fire
Right,
uh, for for the initial objective into the warehouses.
right.
Yeah,
Which was where later on where JSOC did all of
JSOC
their
ended up.
stuff.
Yeah, JSOC ended up housing there, but my job was basically land and begin to set up a support by fire for the assault on the warehouses, and so I was like bird number 3 or so. So, and it was a significant operation. I was also happy it didn't happen because goddamn, I had a lot of gear.
So what happened was, and I've researched this over the years because we had a lot of guys that served with us, you know, up into 2002 that went to Kosovo with us. We had a lot of guys that served with us that re-enlisted and went to Vicenza, and they did the combat jump in
Yeah.
Vicenza, um, into Iraq. And so since I've been out of the army, I've done a lot of research on it. And so basically what it boils down to is this. The C-17, Boeing wanted to certify it on an airborne drop. So Boeing was really trying to push the Air Force and the Army into having a combat parachute drop with the C-17. So that's why we had so many C-17s compared to 130s that were there. So that was the push to combat certify the plane. When the Jessica Lynch incident happened, when they got lost and they ran into their situation, which was not good at all, the Army figured out that southern routes were not secure. You know, that's basically the end result. When they did their calculations of which organizations can secure the southern route, which units are in Kuwait that are not committed at this moment to continue combat operations, we were their best option that was ready to go now. So the decision was to get us off the planes and to let us secure the southern route from Kuwait going up to the Euphrates. That's what the 82nd did, because the supply chain for 3rd Infantry and for that Marine division that was on the Western Front, those supply chains were just wide open. And those in those critical groups of supply runs, we're getting ambushed and we're getting shot, and we're just getting shot in shit. Mm-hmm. So they moved us off of the jump, moved the planes to Vicenza, and 173rd took our birds and did that combat jump. So the C-17 could say they've done a combat jump, and it also solidified the issue with Turkey. Because I don't know if you remember this, but if you remember, Turkey would not allow the infantry division to do the northern assault. Yeah. That's why they had an issue. That's why they wanted to do that jump, and also why there were JSOC units in northern Iraq raised in holy hell to pretend that they were that infantry division that made they were that armored division that made that assault.
Yeah, I mean they had to substitute 4th Infantry Division, altogether.
Tied up off of one. Yeah, I think it
because they bypassed.
I know it was Charlie. I know for a fact it was Charlie Squadron of Delta that tied up the whole northern Iraq thing, plus also 10th Group guy up that whole group because of what he did on not allowing the 4th Infantry or 1st Armored to come through Turkey. And so that JSOC and SOCOM unit tied up that part. Well, that's beside the point. But
south after a month or two of being in combat. That's when we saw fourth ID go by us, after we reopened the MSR.
Totally. Once they caught up. Yeah. So anyways, so what was funny is that, going back to our original conversation, right? The original conversation was like, I was fortunate to do Egypt. I was fortunate to do Kosovo. Then I did Iraq, right? And like you were saying earlier, there's like the late 90s, when I had my drill sergeants that were from this group or from that group. They were kind of like the intermediaries between the Vietnam guys. So we had some Grenada guys and some Panama guys, but they were like the intermediary guys that were passing on the information to us. And we kind of learned through storytelling. It wasn't me, but it was my buddy, kind of storytelling that we heard, because that's the only stories that we had, right, during the 90s. So I remember they told us to scratch the planes. We unloaded the planes, and they told us we don't have enough vehicles. We don't have enough vehicles for a battalion to move north. And I had an E4 in my S&T platoon that was from Detroit. And I had an E3 that's from Brooklyn. And I asked them, I said, do you guys know how to hotwire cars? I straight up asked them. They said, no, Sergeant, we don't know how to do that. I said, quit. I said, cut the shit. Do you know how to fucking steal cars? They said, yes, we know how to steal cars. I said, we're going to go steal some fucking cars. So we went down to Arif or whatever base we went to. We went to whatever big base it was, whatever the big Pogue base was. And we walked the parking lot. And the first thing I noticed was they had a Pizza Hut, they had a Subway. And I noticed that everybody was there and nobody was in the parking lot. And I went through and I noticed the Humvees didn't have chains and didn't have locks on. I'm like, bro, it's on. And so I started looking at it and I was like, man, all I got to do is go down to the PX and buy some OD green, Krylon paint and some khaki paint and some freaking stencils, and these vehicles can be mine.
Yeah, literally.
Literally, that's it. And so,
get a new one.
right. And so I went to me and my platoon went into the AFES and bought the stencils, bought the spray paint, and accommodated in as we say, gear adrift is a soldier's dream. So we went and we found it, and we found 7 vehicles, and we just brought them back and re-spray painted the bumper numbers, and magically they were HSC first to 325. Mm-hmm. And I remember the sergeant major coming to the new motor pool that we just collected, and he was like, and he looked, and my platoon sergeant looked at him. Sergeant major looked at the motor pool, and he said, "Why are those stencils crooked? You need to re-stencil those and make them straight. That is unsat." Roger that. We redid them and we made sure that the stencils weren't crooked. We re-stenciled everything. And that's how we made that convoy of 20-some vehicles.
We literally followed the acronym, strategically transfer equipment into an alternate location, steal.
Later on, later on, when we were in Iraq, I'm talking like 2 weeks later, the sergeant major came up to us. He said, I'll never forget this. He said, I need to be able to transport a platoon tactically now. Go make it happen. And we sat there and we thought about it, and we're like, roger that. So we went and set up a traffic control point, set up a TCP. We knew how to do that from our Kosovo days. Yeah. Set up a TCP, let everybody through. Oh, this is a badass truck. Stop, get out, go home. Dude's like, what? Get the fucking go home. And he disappeared, and we spray painted on the side of this white truck, U.S. Army. And now it was ours. And then we found a semi. and we found this other truck. And we just set up a TCP and took whatever vehicles we thought could move a freaking platoon. And then we drove them back. And what the first thing that we did, though, is we called Wolfpack 6, like, hey, man, so the Kiowas that were flying over us, we have a white truck with a VS-17 on the roof, and it's spray painted U.S. Armory. That's ours. We didn't want them to think that it was a V-bid driving in the battalion area, and then the helicopters come over and blow our ass off.
Especially that other one, that White Lightning. That motherfucking
That's
truck.
exactly the one I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the Ferrari that all of you guys found. That's a different vehicle.
Yeah.
Because you guys found a Ferrari and a couple motorcycles. But anyways, so I went and that's how we got those trucks, man. Was setting up a TCP.
Oh my God, man! But then we did our tour overseas, and we did all that, and there was a lot of shit that happened over there, and we lost some guys and whatnot. And then when we got
I lost two guys. The only two guys that I personally lost was on October 13th, 2003. It was a day that was an absolute shit show. We were doing a log pack, and I was supposed to be the convoy lead. And due to the sat phones you guys had at battalion, our lieutenant asked me if he could be the convoy lead because he needed to call his wife. Yeah, sure, sir. So he took the convoy. Now you have to remember, doing convoy lead at this time with running mail and we were running mermites. We were running breakfast and dinner. So it wasn't like the most tactical thing in the world, right? But it was in a combat zone. It was only 9 months into the war, and so he took convoy lead, and no fault of any of our guys. Outside of where the battalion was, where you guys linked up with third ID and took over that neighborhood. If you remember, to your south was the Golden Dome Mosque.
Yeah, Ghazali.
What I don't remember the name of it, huh?
Ghazali and the Mosque of the Martyrs.
Sure. So whatever that fucking was, on the other side of that was a interchange, an interchange of multiple highways.
Yeah, Spaghetti Junction.
The convoy was coming, huh?
Spaghetti Junction.
I think,
or the Cloverleaf, as some people called it.
I think it was a Cloverleaf, because Spaghetti Junction's where we shot those guys with 50 cals when they were dropping grenades on MPs. It was a different intersection, but anyways. Whichever intersection, I don't remember exactly, but it was an intersection. So our convoy was going north, and a dude in an Iraqi, can't say what his motives were, driving a cement truck. He had a truck with cement in it, and he literally ran over the Humvee. When he ran over the Humvee, he killed the two guys in the back. One was a pack clerk, and one was a admin specialist, and literally just boop, boop, boop right over the back of that truck. And those were the only two guys that my company or my section lost in that whole combat. And it was, I don't know if it was an accident. I don't know if it was on purpose. I wasn't there, but it's one of those things, man, because like I ran many convoys. I ran tons of convoys in Iraq. And I'm not saying I was special. I went through many Polish ambushes. I ran through many, linear ambushes. I've ran through people shooting tracers, going through windshields, ran through all of those scenarios. I've driven through all of them, reverse, react, contact, whatever. We've done all of that. And I think that was one of those times where it was just a shitty accident. It's one of those bad plays, bad time scenarios. I can tell you that concrete driver didn't make it. I don't know exactly how he didn't make it, but I know he didn't leave that crime scene.
Well, but weird like that, man.
I'm sorry.
Car crashes are weird like that, man. you know. So
That's correct. And so things happen to people that earn it, and that's just the way it goes. But it's just those were the two guys. And what really got me and what really set me up was me and one of the guys that was passed away. We had this little like travel kit of chess. Like the little pieces you fold up, you put it away, you play on an airplane. And he was teaching me chess, and I kind of knew how to play chess, but I'm still not good at it. But we had a game, and he had to go do this convoy, so he got his gear on and left. And that night, around 7 p.m., when sun was setting, it's getting dark. I remember going in his barracks, and I already knew they had the accident. I actually went to the recovery, and we cleaned up the space. So I've seen the body bag, seen all of that, did all of that jazz. Got back from that, knowing who was passed away, went into the barracks, and I asked for him, "Hey, where is this guy to finish this chess game?" That shows you how you just don't connect it until you do. And after that, it was just like, man, this freaking sucks.
yeah,
Because it's just going through the motions. Oh, we got to do this. Got to clean this up. We got an accident. Go do this. Bang, 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 bang. Go do it. Then you come back and you ask for a guy that's been killed 2 hours ago that you were there to clean up. And you don't even realize that's the dude until you ask for your chest game. And now it was a shit show.
yeah. I think we when the loss is fresh, like it takes a minute to connect. I don't know how many months. How many months was it? I think I remember telling you about this, James. Uh, I think it was months after my dad died. Like I just kept sending him texts.
Mm-hmm.
Like like my dad had passed away, and I see a funny video on the internet, and I'm like, oh, dude, he'll laugh his ass off on this, and I'm like after I hit send, I'm like, oh, what a fucking idiot. I was like, dude,
100%.
like it's one of those things, like and there's been times where I picked up the phone, like go, I was like, who would know? He would know, and I go to pick up, it's like, God, this son of a bitch, you know. So it's so
Right, which shows you that person who that shows you that your dad is
yeah, they had
left
a
because you were keeping him alive by doing that.
yeah, they had a special corner in your life. You know what I mean? That occupied a space in your mind. It's just crazy. I mean, I've experienced a lot of loss in my time because as we went our different ways after Iraq and whatnot. I ended up getting out and started doing the contracting thing, and I ended up doing a lot of contracts, and that went on for about 12 years or so of that. So
Yeah, so Thanksgiving I spent in Kuwait of '03, was at Fort Bragg in December. Cleared Fort Bragg by February again, so it's almost right at a year on the nose. Um, Left, went to Fort Benning, and I had unassigned orders to Benning. And while I was on leave, I went down to airborne school. And Sergeant Major Watts was running airborne school, which used to be our first sergeant. So I was like, I didn't know that. I walked in. I'm like, yo, one of those things, right? Walked in. He's like, I got you a job. So I went to Delta Company of Airborne School and did that for about 90 days. Again, same problem I had before. My back was causing problems. I thought I could make the runs because airborne school is so freaking slow, but I thought I was good, but I wasn't. I was not good at all. So they moved me from the front end to the back end. So I did jump. So I jumped week. So I moved from doing, ground week for like a month and a half. Like, bro, you're just not cutting it because you're just not able to run. Like, I agree with you. But what you can do is you can go to jump week and do JMPI on all these kids. I'm like, yeah. So I did jump week for about 2 months. And then Sergeant Major Watts came up to me. He's like, "Hey, I got you a special job." I'm like, "Uh-oh." And so he reassigned me to Building 4, which is the infantry school building, the real big building right there. And I went to the protocol office. The protocol office is the office where they do all of the ceremony and all of the greeting of all the visitors. Okay. So if you think of like a VIP's coming in, where are the flags? If it's a Colombian, where are the Colombian flags? They have all that crap. What's the meat? What's the meal? You know, who's picking them up at the airport? Who's the guy in the Class A's? Like all of that jazz, right?
Sounds.
On top of that, you're also the commanding generals of Fort Benning's security guy. You're the NCOIC of his security, which means at the end of the day, a ton of solitaire and a ton of Minecraft. There's not much of a threat of the Fort Benning commanding general on post. So a lot of video game time, right? That was me. That's what I did. But the commanding general of Benning also has to have a jump master. His NCOIC in charge of security has to be his jump master. If he wants to jump with Ranger School or Airborne School, you have to JFI him. That's how I wound up in that position. So that's what I did. So I did that for 6 months. The colonel in charge of protocol told me, "Hey, man, we got to get you out of here because you have 90 days of airborne school. You have 6 months with us. Your NCOIC's coming up, and you need to not be associated with us for your NCOIC because if you're associated with us, you will not be looked at for E7. They won't even look at you because this is not a rateable, you know,
Yeah.
position." I'm like, okay. So they're like, "Hey, we got a position at 129 Infantry." I'm like, "What's 129 Infantry?" They're like, "That is the mechanized school for the Bradleys." I'm like, "Bro, I'm not 11 Mike, I'm 11 Bravo. I don't know a damn thing about a Bradley. I don't know anything about them." And they said, "Well, good news for you is 11 Mike, MOS is gone. There is no 11 Mike, and you can teach the dismounted portion of the 11 of using a Bradley. You can teach the dismounted portion of it." Like, and that's a rated position as a platoon sergeant. I'm like, "Fuck yeah!" As an E6, as a rated position, I could do 90 days. I could get rated as a platoon sergeant for a year. Let's do this. So I go to when I go to 129 Infantry, and that was the biggest leadership challenge I ever had. Because what I had was a bunch of NCOs that deployed from the 100 and that deployed from the 101st and wound up here. Some guys that were skating out that didn't want to do the deployments, and privates who went from Sandhill straight to driving the Bradleys. And so we had a good group. I learned a lot. I learned to be able to respect what the mechanized life is, and be able to say, "Hey, these guys have an awesome job. This Bradley's an awesome system." And I did that for a year, and that's when I got my medical board and got dropped out. And I got dropped out of the Army in August of 2005, and I medically separated because of my back injuries from 5 years before that in 2000.
From that one day I jumped over you on that yeah, because he ate shit. When he stepped on that thing, he ate shit. It was like, oh, boom. And I was right behind him with the 249. Now I had to fucking jump right over him and keep going. And then I thought for sure, I was like, oh, this guy's out. There ain't no way he getting up from that noise. All his gear made on the ground. I was like, hey, no way. This dude's got to be out cold. And he fucking shows up a little bit later. He's like, oh, he's like a zombie. Fucking, he's like, oh, fucker, goddamn it, fucker. So yeah, that was a heavy fall, but
It's
under nods at night, very little illumination from the stars. From the moon. So it was a Yeah.
Yeah.
North Carolina was fucking, it's notorious for shit like that. I mean, we ran into that crap at freaking Lejeune all the time with all the damn sinkholes. Freaking, they're just walking on the nods, man. But
And that's all it takes. I mean, I could concoct a really cool story about X, Y, and Z, but the truth is, just step in a rotted out stump 5 years later ruins your career. I moved as far as I could. But that was the end of it. You know what I mean? Just as far as I could go.
yeah, there's just so much you could do, man. But then, so then you got out, and what you do after you got out?
So I got out in '05, and literally I didn't realize. So I knew I was doing a med board, right?
Right.
I just didn't understand how it went through. And then one day, you got it clear, bang, 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 you're out of the army. So I remember my sister-in-law, she moved out of the house and moved into her old house because it was the first thing that was available. I remember sitting on the steps going, what the fuck am I going to do now? And the next day I had a DirecTV was coming by, and DirecTV was just installing DirecTV so we could have something to watch, right? And I remember walking with this guy, and he's like, "Hey, you just got out of the army?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude, like yesterday." He's like, "Well, you could do this job." I'm like, "I can?" He's like, "Yeah, you can do this job." I said,
Yeah, totally.
"Okay." So he got me in contact with his manager. I called him. He's like, "You were in the army?" I'm like, "Yeah." When did you get out? Like yesterday. He's like, "Come see me tomorrow." So, okay. Come see him the very next day, and I was with him for 5 years. I did DirecTV for 5 years. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, I hated it. There was that whole transition of like your NFL Sunday ticket can go and fuck off. You know what I mean? But it's just it paid the bills. It was a good organization, but I personally hated the job. I hated the idea of what I did. And because when you're coming out of the military, you identify with the job, you identify with your rank, you identify with your MOS, you identify with what the mission is. And now my mission is getting high definition TV and NFL Sunday ticket for for these people, and I could care less. You know what I mean? That's just where my mind was, which is not right. That's where it was. So I did that from '05 to 2009. Early 2010, so in '09, I started running these tactical competitions. So running these competitions, running pistol, running carbine, running precision rifle. I had this guy that had a farm, and I was working with him, shooting at long range, doing all these things. And these guys started coming that were pretty good at it. And I started talking to them, like, "Hey, so what do you do? You in the army?" Like, "No, we do nuclear security." And I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." So I learned where they were and what their job was. So I started applying for that job, and I finally was able to get an interview. And I knew some of the people that were there, like, "Hey, I know you from wherever." And so in January of 2010, I moved over to nuclear security, and I did nuclear security until 2014. I did that for 4 years, and during that time, doing nuclear security, I was on the adversary team, which is the guys that break into nuclear plants, the guys that like
Yeah,
do the red cell stuff. So I did that for a while. Um, did the regular officer nuclear security stuff. But during that time, I started up this company called Trace Armory Group. And what Trace Armory Group was my time in the army, my time in nuclear. I did a lot of training. So I took that training knowledge and moved it to the civilian sector. And we did a lot of training, right? Carbine, pistol, precision rifle, whatever, right? And so I started doing that. And in that process, starting in 2010, I'm doing Trace Armory while I was a nuclear security officer. Because of the way the schedule worked, I had a lot of time off. I was able to do this training. 2 years into it, I ran into this guy who was big into guns, who was an armorer. And so I told him, "Hey, man, why don't you come to my carbine classes? Why don't you come to my classes and set up a table and like your armor stuff? And somebody has a gun that breaks, you can fix it." Right? So that's what he did. And he came out changing out bolts, changing out bolt carrier groups, changing out barrels, and all kinds of crazy stuff. And that's how War Sport Industries, that was one of their things that this guy was doing, and he called it War Sport Industries. So while he and I were talking, one thing led to another, and we were talking about AR-15. I don't want to get into weeds about this because you don't have enough time, but we basically designed a different style of barrel and handguard integration of that time frame of 2011, 2012. Totally different style, totally different thing. And so we did that, and it was very successful, and people really liked it. And so we invented the rifle. It was called an LVOA, which was, you can look at it now. You can look at it online. And basically it was a 11.5-inch barrel with a mid-gas system. And if you ran, the 77 grain Black Hills, you got no muzzle flash. We changed the way the handguard works, changed the way that the muzzle brake works, and you didn't get any muzzle flash, which was really cool. And so we went down that road, and I left nuclear security to work with War Sport Industries when it got enough money to be a real thing. So this is 2014. So I did that until 2015. During that time frame, we have to remember, you got Sandy Hook, you got Obama, you got the shootings in California. You got all this stuff was against the AR-15 in general. And so we rode the AR-15 peak, and then the AR-15 peak crashed, and that company went out of business in 2016. And that's when I went back to nuclear security. And they're basically off and on ever since. And so then did nuclear security again, 2016 through 2019. And this is where it gets interesting. So they did some upgrades, and I got laid off. So I got laid off, like, oh God. So here it is, 2019, all this experience, all this gun knowledge, all this security, military, whatever. Here I am, I'm free falling. I don't have a job. So I land this really good gig with a company called Military Products. And that's when you and I actually reconnected. So Military Products is a really good company, and they have two brands. The brand they have is Tac Shield and Sport Ridge. And I was the product manager. What a product manager does is I help promote and move products through idea phase to market. Then I promote the products in market. So I was able to have direct involvement with others in the Razor Molly line, and different tactical slings, different bipods, sight-in targets, reactive targets. And as a group, we came up with these things where we were like, hey, these are spots that the gun industry needs for quality equipment. And we were able to launch this whole line. And then I was a product manager there for 3.5 years, or right at 3 years, and left 2023. I started in 2019, left in 2023, and went back to nuclear security, where I'm at now.
Okay. Yeah. So but you still have Trace Armory still is still a thing though, right?
It is. So I stopped in 2017. I stopped training in 2017 for one reason and one reason only. I finally, after many years fighting with the VA, got my disability raised from what they originally gave me. They gave me a horrible number, and I eventually got it raised to a more better position. And that allowed me to go for my education benefits, because I did not use my GI Bill, because up until because remember, I got out in 2005. I was under the Montgomery GI Bill, which means it expired 10 years after you got out. I was busy supporting the family, man. I'm still married to a beautiful bride since 2001. We met in 99. I had a child. Everything, on the family front, we're still rocking and rolling, and my focus was supporting the family. I didn't have time to go to college. I didn't have time to use my GI Bill.
Yeah.
And so by 2015,
Yeah, it's time to work. Well,
right.
yeah.
And so by 2015, my GI Bill had already expired, right?
Mhm.
So I was able to get the VA by 2017 to actually bump my percentage above 20%. From now, I don't know how you get medically separated from the Army of 20% or whatever. So I was able to get it bumped up above 20, and so I was able to use the VA to be able to go back to school. And so I went to college from 2018 to 2022, and I graduated from college. Well, during that time, I wasn't able to have time. I didn't physically have the ability to do training. So my Trace Armory side, side project, my side project stopped in 2017, went to college for 4 years, and now in 2023, I started to back up again, and now I'm in my second year of doing training since that time.
Right. Because you're putting up classes all over. I mean, I know I seen the calendar. We got that group on Facebook, and where we've discussed multiple topics and whatnot, and so I've told other people and whatever, it's just not so much uh all right, so let's teach you how to shoot, and this is you can do the bare bones type instruction, but it's also you can take people a little bit step further from that basic level and just bring them into more competent uh, skill set, when it comes to pistol and rifle. That's what you guys, and a lot of mindset stuff that you guys do, and it's from what I've gathered from watching your videos and whatnot. So I mean, and it's for everybody. So
Absolutely. So I will tell you straight out the gate. I've had a long time ago now, 2012, 2013. I had a student attend one of my classes. Okay. And back then, I structured it. Hey, we have a level 1, then a level 2, then a level 3, and a level 4. Right? You know how that goes. And it's just to bring them back and to keep the customer coming back. Right? So I was kind of doing that, and I had a student take. They came and they took a class, and they left the class and got into a shooting at the gas station right after the class. Like they literally got into self-defense. And, they literally left the class, went to go get gas, and got into an engagement. That changed my whole perspective. And what my perspective is from that time till now is if a student leaves a class, they have to be able to engage instantly. There is no other thing they need to gain. There is no other step they need. Whatever they've learned today, they have to be able to use instantly when they leave the range. Not waiting for the next class. You got to learn it now. The other issue is I want to do that in 4 hours. So how can I take someone who owns a pistol and allow them to be competent in engaging as someone in 4 hours? And one thing you've not asked me about yet is what the hell do I have here in my Yield Yeti cup?
what the hell do you have in your Yeti cup, bro? Because I know
I'm
that.
not telling you no. Ask.
Because I know the sticker's yours. That's your.
So I made 4 old fashions and put it in 1 cup.
Oh, see, that's dude. I got sparkling water, so yeah.
So if you remember, do you remember Clark?
Of course. Yeah.
So you might want to edit this out, but
No, I won't.
Clark. So so Clark was telling me that back in the day when he was in the barracks, he had like a Speedway giant, like big gold, right?
Mhm.
And that thing was nothing but Bacardi and freaking Diet Coke.
Yeah.
From like 9 a.m. until 4 p.m. That's what he all day long.
Yeah, that dude. Yeah.
For years.
Yeah, I don't know how often he did it, but I know of at least a couple
You told
times.
me it was every day.
I know it was at least a couple times that because I may have gotten too close with my elbows or whatever. He'd be like, "Hey, oh, fuck, I was like, bro, dude, it's like a fucking it's like a cup of soda. Hey, fucking soda." I'm like, oh, all right, you know. But
It was freaking hilarious because he and I met up in Vegas, like you and I did in where was it? Dallas? Is that
yeah,
where we linked
Worth
up?
right there. Yeah.
Yeah, Fort Worth. So this past year, 2023, I was watching on Instagram and I was like, this guy's going to be in Vegas the same weekend I'm in Vegas. So we went and did that, man, and we linked up, and that was really cool. I haven't seen him in 20 some years, and then so that was really cool.
Yeah, I haven't seen him since we parted ways. I mean, it's just there's a lot, you know. I was also a different different animal. You know, it's just kind of like I'm a little older now, a little bit more tame. Back then, I was just a fucking Tasmanian devil of fucking.
Well, so yeah, and the other piece to it is that, and I haven't really realized this until the last couple, probably 10 years or so. But you think that the mindset of taking care of the team, you think of the mindset of taking care of your guys, you got to take care of my soldiers, right? What it truly actually is being very selfish. And what happens is that you make everyone around you suffer, but the ones you work with. It's actually a self-fulfilling thing where, oh, I can't go do this with my family because we have to get ready for this thing, or I can't go do this with my wife because we have to get ready to go to the field tomorrow. Like I have to prep, I have to do these. It's a very selfish concept that you actually think you're taking care of the group, but you're not, because at some moment that group just disappears due to a change of orders or due to a change of your physical capability or a change of whatever, and now you're no longer part of that group, and now you're in free fall. Like, what the hell just happened? And so then you realize who the real people are that you need to take care of. And so I even think of mine and your relationship that's that similar. I think I lost you, buddy. You
You
still
lose?
there?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So like even when you and I parted ways in 2004, 2005, you're on your path, I'm on my path,
Mhm.
you know, and you just don't reconnect. Same thing with this guy where we're talking about Clark. He disappeared from us in 2002, um, and or 2001 or whatever, and you don't realize that he's taking care of his family like you should be doing, but you're not. You're taking care of your bros instead.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
Yeah, no, it's in the my mom specifically finds this kind of stuff fascinating, because how we're able to just pick up where we left off, like no matter, you know what I mean, like it'll be 20 years and whatever, we ain't seen each other in forever, and we just like run into each other and it's like fruit besties all over again. Like it ain't no. And she's like, I like that is something that is unique to military guys. Like it's that
So
doesn't
I will
exist
tell
anywhere
you,
else.
I was standing outside of the Hilton in Fort Worth, standing there by some mailbox, and I see this ghetto sled come sliding up, and it stops. And I look, I'm like, oh, I know who that is, and I just jump in the freaking car and we leave. I haven't seen you in probably 22 years. I jump in this ghetto sled and we're rolling through town. It was like, where are we going? I don't know. Where do you want to go? It was just,
Yeah, it was like fucking we're going. Where are we going? I don't fucking know. I'm not from this town.
we both had no clue. You want to eat at that place? Sure. Bang. Pull in.
I'm
That's it. We
hungry.
hang
So
out
am
some
I.
hamburgers for 2 hours.
Fucking pull the fucking probable Cosmobile and fucking let's go. It's just that fucking. I'll tell you, man. And that's just how it is, man. We could be apart for many years, and it's just like you know, come back together like Voltron, whatever, don't take much. But it's pretty funny. But we we have a pretty, us military guys, we have a pretty unique relationship when it comes to that. Like it, so Clark, whatever the hell, he pulls his head out of the, wherever he's at, whatever he's not busy. If he, all it takes is like, hey, bro, you here? I was like, yeah, come on, and we're right back to business, like nothing.
One
Nothing.
one of the best conversations I ever had that was with him. He's pretty high up now in a federal law enforcement agency, and we're sitting in the Cosmopolitan. So we're in Vegas, we're sitting underneath this chandelier, and we're drinking. I'm having an old fashioned. He's having a water, and we're talking. And he said that the one thing that he learned from the 82nd that was the most impressive thing that he still uses was this one thing, and it was that he could have a ass chewing of his subordinates. He could jump down their throat. He could freaking hand them the second coming of God. And as soon as it was over, he would pack up his folder and say, "Hey, who wants to go to IHOP?" And the people there would be like, are you serious?" He's like, "Let's go." Like, it's over. Like, I just chewed your ass. We just had a conversation. Told me what you're going to do to fix it. Let's go. And I sat there and he told me, he's like, "I learned that from you." And I was like, "I learned it from other NCOs where I would screw up and they would freaking hammer me. I mean, hammer me like Thor, man. I mean, just pound me into the ground. And when it's over, it's over. No more residual. There's no more backlash. When it's over, it's over. And you can learn from that type of experience. And I always thought that that was a really cool, thing that I never thought that I passed on to others.
It's I mean, he made a good assessment, but I think he forgot also another key component of that lesson is that you learn to forget the mistake and put it past you as well. So you put the mistake past you as a supervisor, as a leader, and carry on, and that's fine, and we move on. It's over. But the subordinate that made the infraction or whoever also learns not to dwell on the mistake and just
100%.
don't dwell on it. It's done. Just like it's done for me, it's done for you. It's time to get back on the horse and redo it. Whatever. Keep doing what we're doing. So you don't enter this perpetual chain of mistakes that because people are dwelling on what's going on, and the last time you did something, you just like quicksand, and you never get out of it, and you end up in a rut. It's but that's the part that I learned the most from those actions, because I came in, I had Daniels as a supervisor for a while. You remember that guy, the straight Mormon dude. He was a little weird, but he was very knowledgeable in his own way. Then I had some of the other guys like Wright, Flowers, and some of these others, Albie and some of them other cats, and they were rough and tumble, but it was like it's done. I mean, the mistake is, all right, let's go on to the next thing. Don't do it again. Don't do it again, and we go. And they and calling you out, like just telling you when you fucked up. It's like, hey, dude, you fucked up, or hey, you're fucking up. Stop it. So those things are super important. I mean, I learned a lot of that, and I learned also to train the guys beneath me. That was one of those things that the guys that are my subordinates, train them and teach them as much about my job as possible, because I'm not going to be there forever. So
Right. Because here's, even from the firearms side of the training perspective, I I want everyone to be better than I am. I want everyone to
yeah,
shoot
yeah, yeah.
faster. I want everyone to move faster. And I may even have younger guys coming in that are 20, 21, 25 that are taking the classes. And I may shoot a string at 6 seconds and they shoot it at 4.5. and they kind of look at me sideways. Well, you're supposed to be the teacher. Why are you slower than I am? Like, bro, I got 25 years on you. You know what I mean? I used to be faster than you when I was your age, but that's a different story. You know what I mean? But it's like you always want to make them better. You always want to replace. You always have a replacement plan, because here's the deal: there is nothing I do that is so important that I'm the only one that can do it. I have to be able to train my subordinates to do what I am able to do better. Because if I can make them do it better, then if the flag ever falls or the balloon never goes up, I know that that task can be completed with or without me, because you don't know what the future holds.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, it's it's important. It's important. What you were saying before we had that little power interruption. You were talking about, the importance of at the end of your 4 block hour, 4 hour block of instruction, launching a competent product out the door that could defend himself. It may not be the fully finished product, but it has enough of the fundamentals to defend himself or defend somebody else in a crisis situation. If one should emerge, it's just
Yeah, it's a whole different way of looking at it, because you've been through police academies, I've been through academies, we've all been through a 16-week block of instruction, and you have 8 weeks to do it this way, right? But when you say, "Hey, man, I got 4 hours. Only have 4 freaking hours to teach someone to go from nothing to something," how do you distill that down? How do you distill it down to make someone competent in 4 hours, right? If you look at any of the state concealed carry, like permits, look at North Carolina, 8.5 hours and you can carry a gun. You look at Texas, you got all these different things, right? So that's where my specialty comes in now, where I'm able to distill that down and say, you can take my level 1 handgun class as an example, as a new guy, and then 2 months later, take it again, and I'll give you the exact same training, but you'll pick up on new things because you were at saturation on first class and you missed all these other things. Come back 60 days later, and you are now able to absorb what you missed on last class, right? Then all you're at saturation again. And then after about 2 to 3 runs, I've given you all I could give you in that level 1, but you have to come through there 3 or 4 times to actually take it all in. You know what I mean?
Right.
Same thing with like my level 2s, my level 3s. Guys come out, and I don't stack it where you have to take a 1 or a 2 or a 3. I just simply say, if you come to a level 2, here's the qualification. I need you to shoot it. If you shoot it, you can stay. If you miss, you might need to come to my level 1. You know what I mean? And I'm gonna let you go home, and I'll see you at the level 1, because you can't make the level 2. You aren't where you need to be to make this class go forward. Because what a lot of people don't want to do is I don't want to hamper the rest of the class, because it's one individual doesn't have the skill set to continue with the rest of the class. You know what I mean?
right. And where do you do those classes in North Carolina? Are you still in Wilmington? Where?
So I am in Central. So I basically have 3 primary areas. I have around Pinehurst, I have around Pittsburgh, and around Nashville. So if you look at North Carolina as an example, a very bad self plug. Here's the state of North Carolina. Draw a line right down the center. I'm at 1, 2, 3. So I'm at the 3 main spots, and that's just the way it works. So I'm either in the lower half, in the middle, or I'm in the higher part, and that's just where I'm at right now. Now, if someone asked me from Texas, or if someone called me from Vegas, they want me to come out, I have done that before. I've taken my little circus show and I've shown up at different places. I've done that in 2010 to 2018. I was all over the country, but now I'm just starting it back up again So I'm focused just in North Carolina, but if somebody called me, I'd be more than happy to come out to wherever they are, you know.
Oh hell yeah, man! You no question. You got no nothing. No questions from you. Anything you'd like to ask?
I don't think he likes me because I gave him that ugly joke. He's been quiet.
Oh no, he was one of those mech guys that you were referring to back in the day.
Guys,
When did you go to 5100?
put up your ass.
200. Did you ever learn when did you go to Bradley School?
Never.
He didn't. He's a tanker.
Oh, you didn't.
No,
That's too bad.
I was on the Abrams.
he was on Abrams. Yeah, those
That story kind of like yours though in Kosovo when you took those shots in the tree. So yeah, that just reminded me of my time in Fallujah. We hit Fallujah in November of 04. It's Operation Phantom Fury. Made the news. Found out afterwards it made the news. Yeah, I had no idea it was as big as it was until we redeployed. So we were out there. We were part of the distraction force that hit the city from the west. So we were on the Euphrates River on that the same iron suspension bridge that the Blackwater guys were hung off of. That was our battle position. So we were on the north side of that bridge, holding the bridge, and we were supposed to make a lot of noise and make a lot of attention for a lot of people to come to our side of the city, so that the rest of the forces can come north. Anyway. So I'm sitting there in my tank. I'm a young private. I was in basic training like 3 months before this. So, so this guy has my first duty station, my first anything. So I'm out there as a loader in a tank and sitting there. There's a little lull in the fighting because the first 5 days was pretty much a 5-day long straight firefight. And we had a special forces unit next to us. I don't remember which one. But I know 3-6 Commando, the Iraqi Special Forces Special Operations Unit was there, and whatever American Special Operations were training them were there with them. But a little low in the fighting. We had those guys next to us. We had some kind of air support. We had artillery, and just sitting there, chilling for just a minute. And I hear
knocking.
I don't know shit. And so I've been shot at before, but I couldn't make that noise. What the fuck is that knocking sound? The fuck is that? And I look across the river. There's 2 fucking guys with AKs shooting at me. Oh, I'm the only one standing up. So there's he's shooting at me. We had a platoon from 1-9 in the ING building next to us, and I looked at them, told my tank commander what was going on, swung my 240 around, and started shooting down. And then everybody opened up to anything. I have no idea what anybody else was shooting at except for me. Even the SF guys, they had the M134s on their Humvees, and they just opened it, all this fire.
It's absolutely, Fallujah, right? So that's an interesting town. So I remember,
It was.
I don't remember why, but I was on one of the chalks. I don't remember why I was there, but I was one of the chalks. We took Blackhawks to before it was the Blackwater Bridge. We landed on the far left grass field right there, which is very similar to where you were talking about. That was right there. We whopped in, got off the Birdman, and I came out of the Bird, and I remember going to the traffic. It was coming across that bridge, and I remember tapping on the dude's hood. Hey, stop! And I put a muzzle right in the dude's face. And the dude just looked at me like he wanted to rip my freaking lungs out. And I just sat there and I was like, oh, this is a new place. This is a totally different joint than where we just came from. We literally air assaulted from Osama was straight there and landed right then. And I remember tapping on that dude's car and look in his eyes. I was like, bro, this is a different gig. Within 3 days later, you guys dumped those kids, or not kids, but dumped those guys that were on the mopeds and all that other shit on top of that building. And all that shit went downrange. Then we had our freaking second investigation, whatever. So we got we got clear to that one. But and I just remember like this is a different moment. But So what's also funny is this is the beauty of being part of a different company. I was part of S&T. So we landed, and I don't remember exactly how it all went down, but we eventually had to clear that Bass party
That's
freaking
party
amusement,
headquarters, yeah.
their whole freaking amusement park, right? Where
Yeah.
they have like Ferris wheel and the bridge and all the water parks and whatever. Whenever we spray painted all the signs and shit. I remember sitting outside, man, and I had to bring the C4 up. 'Cause I was the ambulance CO. I had to bring the C4 up for the guys to do the breach into the wall, right? And it was like a stupid amount of C4. It was like, I don't know. I'm not a breacher, so I can't tell you it was wrong. I couldn't tell you right. I don't know. Engineers said they need this much. I'm like, okay. So I went to the truck and I got it, right? Went to the truck and I bring it up to him. Homie like packs this freaking big ass breach in charge and whatever. And he just made it out of, I don't know, out of freaking hopes and dreams. And he puts it together, sticks it on the wall, and it was like the 4th of July. Boom, boom, blew a hole in a 4-foot wall. And it was like Charlie's Angels. Everybody runs in, they're clearing corners and get in there and take down the building and everything. Right? It's just a super 1970s SWAT show, like hut, hut, hut. They're going in, they're clearing all these buildings, right? Sun comes up. Sun comes up. I was not there, but I was told that the maintenance guy showed up. Like this is like 3 hours later, right? Like the dude that does maintenance, he shows up and like walks past the hole in the fence, a hole in the wall, goes and unlocks the gate that's like 2 feet away, lifts the latch and opens the gate and goes in.
It was a
He
lot.
literally like went like this with his finger and pulled the gate open. The whole 45-minute delay for the explosives to breach this wall was absolutely pointless because no one went to the gate and like went to the gate, but that was 2 feet to the right to see if it was unlocked.
What for? Fuck them.
And it was.
Yeah, that was I think we had a guy. We had a saw gunner freaking open fire on a dog, and the dog wouldn't fucking die. Like he let this dog have it, man. It was like at least 10 fucking rounds of saw fucking and the dog was attacking the stack, so he freaking stitched up this freaking dog, and the dog would not fucking die. And I remember being on the back of this formation with my 240 and my guys and going like, it's like, oh shit, they're into something. And I'm like, I'm like, holy fuck, bro, what is? And I'm like, and then I realized it's like nobody else is shooting, so it's clearly just the saw gunner. And I'm like, why is it? I was like, all right, you know what, fuck it, I'll find out when I get up there. And I start getting up there, and this fucking dog is like fucking hamburger meat. And I was like, dude, was that was, man? That fucking dog wouldn't die. I'm like, dude. So you know, if you fucking hammers things in the dirt enough, they keep jumping, right? You know, you know what I mean? Like, it's just.
I can tell you
another story from Fallujah.
I can tell you an even worse story than that. So after we went to Fallujah in 03, so you have to remember, I'm not even comparing my experience to Fallujah to yours. It's just the same town. I was just there a couple months earlier when before we made a mad, or maybe we made a mad and you had to deal with it. I don't know. But
I think that's the accurate. Yeah.
I think that's the right answer.
I've heard his stories enough fucking times where we've pretty much boiled it down to this son of a bitch started it.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're in Baghdad at some point, and we're hanging out with First Armored Division because I'm with the support and transport platoon. So our platoon was attached to First Armored Service and Support Group. We were part of their group, and we would. It was easy. Go over there, get a pallet of water, throw it on the truck, and we would go right. So these soft skin MOS folks, at least that's the way I thought of them. We're running forklifts and they're doing all this work, and I'm watching them, and I'm like, you know, it's one thing to be in the infantry. It's one thing to be like run around, whatever. It's another thing to run a forklift 12 hours a day. It's another thing to have to do all of these, be a cook, being a cook, by boiling water in the desert for 12 hours. And I'm like, man, I'm so glad I didn't pick those MOSs, not because of the cool guy factor, but because these people work and they work hard and they work 18 hours a day while all I have to do is just sit back and hope for somebody to shoot at me. That's easy. That's the easy answer.
I was thinking the same exact thing when Johnny was telling the stories in Kosovo about going up and down ridge lines. I was like, I'm glad I was in a fucking tank.
Much easier, right? It's so much easier. So anyways, but going back to the dog story. So these service and support folks, they asked us, who are 82nd Airborne Division infantry guys, hey, we got these wild dogs. They're growling at us. We want you to shoot these dogs inside our compound to get rid of them. We're like, hell yeah. So me and Battle Troll and our platoon sergeant, a couple other guys show up, got our M4s with M68, got lasers, got all this high-speed shit in 2003. People were still rocking M16s. You know what I mean? We got the high-speed gear. Man, I got a beat on a dog, and I was following that Joker. I was like, is this son bitch made out of armor? I haven't shot that rifle in like 90 days, maybe 120 days. And that zero was like somewhere else. It was nowhere near well aimed at. And that was a lesson. I was like, maybe getting in and out of these vehicles, going hut, 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 banging it around, maybe banging it a couple times, the gun fell over, maybe this, maybe that. They have knocked off the zero. We didn't kill shit. We shot probably 40 rounds between the three of us, hit nothing. And we right in the guns. And it was at a 25-meter sight in, and it was like zero in that gun. We were doing some spins. Like, bro, this is like wild. Like I never thought about losing zero on an optic until that moment. Thank God we didn't get in contact. We would have scared the hell out of them. That was it. You know what I mean? It was rough.
I mean, I had the Elkin 145, which was it was. I mean, it's not terrible, but it was almost like
It's Canadian.
yeah, yeah.
It's Canadian.
It's wishful thinking because so if you think you can look through glass while absorbing all that recoil in any kind of consistent basis, you're in La La Land. So
Right.
you're it that all that scope was good for was to line up your initial trigger pull. After that, you're just holding and fucking and watching your impacts
Right.
because it's not you just can't see. So your whole fucking body's fucking
Yeah.
I'm not seeing. I remember first couple of engagements I ever gotten with that damn gun. Like I saw what I was shooting at initially, and then after that, I don't know where the fuck the person went or where or what happened or who was back there. It was just fucking crazy. But that's
Like when I got on the gun teams initially, it was M60s, right?
right.
And then we went to the 240s, and I never ran an optic on a belt fed gun. I have never done it.
No, I mean it's.
I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying I've never done it.
I'm just saying it wasn't really needed because
They issued us the I don't remember if they were EOTechs or ACOGs for the 240s when we first got to Kuwait before we crossed the berm. But we tried them out in Kuwait at Udari range, and like it's just you might as well just use your eyes.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things.
Anyway, so
It's one of those things like the army sees something empty, so they gotta fill it. So you got a feed tray that has a Picatinny rail on
Yeah.
it. So something must go on top of this. Let's put something on top of this, and they do.
We had the old AIM 1 IR, right? When on the M60s, we had the AIM 1s, and they were connected with cable straps and freaking MRE box cardboard. And then when we got to the 240s, I'm serious. When we got to the 240s, had that Picatinny rail. And you would put that aim one on that Picatinny rail, but it mitigated your freaking iron sights. Who cared? Because you're running under nods. You're not looking for iron sights anyways. You're running nods. You're not looking over the gun, right? So I remember running an aim one with BVS sevens, okay, shooting an M240 in '97, and we had the laser was nothing but a reference point. So all we would do is shoot the gun, watch the trace, watch the ricochets, adjust it to where it hit the target, and wherever the aim one was pointing at, like the tree to the left, count 4, then that's where you would keep it at. You would keep it on the 4th tree to the left. It was just a reference point. You would like look at that. We're good. We're good. And then like maybe, you had the transition, you just take the T&E and just unlock it and just run across the bar and like, we're good. You know what I mean? That's all you can do.
I'll tell you, man, it's we had some fun with them 240s. I mean, I went through the whole gambit. I ended up carrying a freaking the paratrooper version 240, collapsible buttstock, shortened freaking barrel, and I ended up humping that thing around as a contractor for a minute, and I was like, man, this thing's come a long way. So it's like,
Let me leave you with this. My first, well, no. Anyways, I had a division jump in Sicily drop in Sicily drop zone. It was with Specialist Fields. We'll just leave it at that. He was the M60 gunner, and I was his assistant gunner. I had the tripod and all that stuff on my rucksack. We are on the 141, and he pulls out of his BDU pocket, unbuttons it, and he has 2 hits of acid. And he looks at me. He's like, "Hey, man, would you like to have one?" I'm like, "No, I'm good."
Oh, what?
I'm like, "Nope, I'm good." So he takes it. And he takes one. Okay. I'm like, "I'm good, bro." We freaking get up in the plane, flying around South Carolina, doing whatever tactical ops the Air Force is doing. Lights turn red, and he's like, "Whoa." He's like looking around the plane. I've never done acid. I've never done any hard drug ever. I literally haven't. So I'm just watching him like, bro. And he's like, he's tripping balls, man. We freaking get on the plane. We hook up. I'm looking to make sure he hooks up. I make sure he hooks. I make sure he runs his safety pin through and he pulls it down. I'm making sure he's good. I don't want him to get hurt. We exit and we jump into Sicily drop zone. Boom. We're in 2 a.m. M60. Land, go towards the Steiner 8, get hooked up, we're good. And we're walking towards Long Street, right? Which is northwest. We're walking that way in a platoon formation. And this dude lets loose of 100 rounds of 7.62 blank. And on an M60, it's just a muzzle flash like you ain't never seen before. And it's just like the world is covered in pumpkin orange. She's just like, we're, in the middle of formation, bro. Everybody hits the ground. We got contact with some op board group, and they're like doing battle drills and whatever. And he's like fucking just laying it down. And so we at the bone, and I go over to him like, "Hey, what's going on?" He's like, "The fucking bears, man. You see the fucking bears?" I'm like, and there's like dudes IMTing, there's dudes like reacting to contact all across the drop zone. And I'm just like, all right, that's cool. I can get up, start walking. And I'm like, I just learned a lesson right there, man. Don't never take acid on a fucking jump. That's not a good idea.
I didn't learn that lesson.
It was wild. I was like, dude, this is the craziest shit I have ever seen.
I didn't learn that lesson apparently.
Yeah, but you didn't learn that from me though. That's
No. It's a fine tradition. However, yeah, no,
This is the same guy when we were in the field who unpacked his rucksack and he had a VHS tape and his class A's for a 10-day field op just where he took the night prior. Made him think that was a good idea to pack.
Yeah, so you remember we had that black platoon sergeant that came from Legland. I forget his name. Jackson. Yeah. And
Straight off of Drill Sergeant Trail.
yeah. So
He went to airborne school like in the 80s and wound up as E7 as a platoon sergeant for us.
yeah.
He was not jump master qualified. He was the first E7 I ever seen without a fucking jump master qual. And I was like, can you do that? Like, I didn't even know that was a thing.
I didn't even know that was possible. Yeah. Well, he. I remember one of the first jumps he had with us. It was a bad weather jump, so you know how they gave us those big orange trash bags, and the bag is it's the bag to shoot, so
it doesn't get too wet.
So they don't get too wet, you know. And we talked them into using it as a wet weather bivy sack. He ended up fucking sleeping in that thing. Fucking most of the field exercise, he's just sleeping in that fucking orange trash bag. I think the first sergeant called him out. He's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" It's like, "Oh, this is to keep the fucking water. It's orange." It's like that. Where's the chute? Did you put it with? Did you have another one? I was like, no. I said, well, did you pack your chute? And that's what it was for. And we had gone through dozens of briefs about what to do with these fucking orange trash bags.
Yeah.
It wasn't a mystery. And in the end, he wasn't paying attention to shit. He was probably nervous as fuck. And he fucking ended up fucking sleeping in that thing for like a week. Like, and all of us are looking at him like
he was one of those. He was one of those African Americans that was like pencil thin.
Yeah.
Had like some type of like Genghis or some type of weird blood-borne disease. His eyes were yellow or whatever it was, and you just looked at him and like, bro, like you're having a rough day. Just in general. I mean, he's pencil thin, but he was a good guy though. He played a hard game, but he was a good dude.
I don't know what ended up happening to him because
there ain't no telling, man.
Ain't no telling. Because I ended up working for Tommy T. Thompson for a while there, and that was fucking. That guy was thrown the fuck off.
I remember y'all's podcast with Battle Troll talking about him. There's so much stuff I totally forgot about with us leaving him on the DC and all kinds of things I totally forgot about that you guys talked about. That was
dude. It was amazing. It was amazing. Like it was one episode it was like watching The Office or some shit. Like you're like you fucking going to work and then you're going to work with this guy and then you're like, ain't no fucking telling what's about to happen with this dude because this dude is fucking cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. He's out there, and shit would happen. Like I mean, that fucking helicopter fucking pickup that we had that one day, and he's fucking directing these helos. And we fucking fall off this fucking mountain in these fucking French Pumas, these fucking floom, and he's just like fucking directing the fucking that way. Oh, the fucking pilot is like, who is that? I'm like, who's who? I was like, who's the guy on there? I fucking look over. I was like, oh shit. He's the only motherfucker on the LZ. There ain't nobody else left.
That's just that difference between being on a military base and being in the real world. Where you can get left, because if you're Pathfinder or if you're air assault, or on Campbell or Bragg or wherever, and you're doing your thing, and the birds leave, you can jump in your POV and you can drive home, or you can call trans and they can come get you. Comparatively to the reality of it, you're not left.
He's sitting there with a Singars in between his radio in between his legs and the fucking hand mic stuck in his helmet, and he's just like. And we're just leaving, and dude, like, what the fuck? I said that guy is he's I don't know how long he stayed in that fucking mountaintop till somebody finally went up there and got him. But I mean, thank God it wasn't that hostile. But I mean, but that's all I got for this little chat. We gotta call it a day. And you got anything you want people to know or anything?
No, sir. I'm good. At any point you want to reach back out, we can do this again. Just let me know. We can change it to more current topics as all this is done or whatever, man. I'm good to go.
We got a hearing story.
It's good introduction, and we get a good base to have you on further as well. And
Thank you, man. I really do appreciate it.
anytime you wanna discuss something, we record every other Friday, so we'll go ahead and if
Might
you
talk
got
about recording next week during the week because it's after election day.
yeah, we got to do a post-election one.
Well, so this is what we know is true, right?
Mhm.
If Trump wins, then we know that the Republic is real. If Trump does not win, then we know that the Republic is not real.
Yeah.
That's what we know.
I'd like to add something to that. I think it probably hasn't been real for a while. If he doesn't win, and it turns out that you see the same kind of crap that we saw during the last election, where you see like a big peak in votes, all for one time at 4 a.m. Yeah, you see.
So I will throw you what my theory is, since this podcast is not going right this second. I think that since JFK was assassinated, that's when the Republic died. I think we've been in a matrix since mid 1960. I don't think it's been real since then. I think that's the reason why JFK was killed in the freaking first place. That's why we killed him as a U.S. government, took him away, because it's literally the difference between the Roman Empire. You have the Republic, you have Caesar. Caesar dies, you have the Empire. We are now in the first 100 years of the Empire for our country. So that's why I'm saying that if Trump wins, then we know the Republic is still alive. If Trump does not win, then we know that the Empire is still rocking and rolling.
Yeah.
That's just my perspective.
Gotcha.
I think we're all waiting with bated breath.
Yeah, I'd say something similar.
Kind of like we're all holding our breath to see what the fuck happens. I mean, it definitely looks fantastic. It looks like
Looks like he's going to win.
looks like he's gonna win. Looks pretty certain.
That's when all the
That's when all the shenanigans. That's when all the shenanigans
keep
happen.
watching.
I hate it for all of you guys that live where y'all live. I hate it for you. I'm just glad that I live right smack in the middle of Robin Sage. So I know who my neighbors are. I know who everybody is.
Yeah, yeah.
And if one of the main reasons why the wife and I picked this spot is we said if The Walking Dead ever went real, we would still have electricity.
Yeah.
Just because of the people that live here.
Yeah. They're outside of special forces
Yeah,
training.
I figured so.
Yeah. So it's yeah, I mean it is what it is. I mean we'll
We'll find out.
find out. We're about to find out. Well, I'll let you go, brother. And
Nice getting to see you, man.
and
Good to hear your story.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
all right, my man. Take care. See you whenever. We'll
All right, man. See you.